Yo, Thought Warriors. What is up? Higher Learning is on. It's Lathan Jr.
And it's me, Rachel and Lindsay.
We have an interview today.
We do.
Butch Ware, California gubernatorial candidate, talks about radical liberation politics. He talks about why he feels that the California Democratic Party is trying to keep him off of the ballot. Feels like he's polling well, and that there are people who don't want him on the ballot because of what it means for electoral politics in California.
Yeah, not just people, a system. I think it's a really, really interesting interview. I think some people, you hear radical, you think something totally different. We get into that. It is passionate. It is educated. It is, honestly, it was a necessary conversation. I think as we are in a place where we are starting to explore things outside of what we've been told, what we've been traditionally taught, and what we're seeing currently in our political system, this is an interview that I think will challenge you and give you a very, very interesting perspective.
We've had Josh Shapiro, we've had Gavin Newsom, we've had several center-left Democrats on the podcast. I think it was it's helpful for the audience, and we gave Butch a lot of time because I give Butch a lot of love. I give Butch a lot of love, and all of the questions that I'm sure people will want us to ask about his feelings on the Democratic Party and how those feelings jibe with the current Trump administration and what they are doing. His criticism is almost all for the Democratic Party. He talks about Donald Trump a little bit. We talked about it, but this is sort of this is a thread in leftist progressive circles with being unsatisfied with the Democrats as the opposition party to the fascism that's coming from the right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's necessary. I understand, and you guys will too when you listen to the interview, why specifically he's coming, I shouldn't say coming after, but he's critical of the Democratic Party, because I think as maybe as Black people traditionally, we are hesitant to do that. So I understand. But I also want to talk about, it is long, but you can't do this type of interview, in my opinion, and cut it short, because it's not just about giving you a bullet point answer. It's about an explanation and to a why. And every single question that is asked, the why is explored. And to me, that's why I found this to be such a powerful interview.
Say this, and get into the show, other stuff that's happening. There'll be no freedom that you can't imagine. And I hope that you guys understand that. Almost anything, nothing can exist until you can imagine it first. So if you cannot imagine a world with universal health care, that world is never coming. If you can't imagine a world where there's no homelessness, that world won't exist. If you can't imagine a world where you are treated like a citizen on par with everyone else that's walking around you, you're doomed to live in that world forever. So the things that you hear from people with radical politics, leftist politics, he talks about progressive populism. They might rub you the wrong way. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? The first way you're going to do them is to talk about them. And I want you to know that what might be radical or destabilizing to you is being done somewhere by some country, by some community with great effect. And so I'm happy to have Butch on. Going to see Butch again on Saturday. Hope you guys will come out as we're doing that as well. Okay, let's get into the show.
Okay.
Now, we got to get into the show. It's a very interesting show because a lot of stuff happened like just in the last couple of days. First of all, Duke.
I haven't had I feel like I've been so busy I haven't really sat down and watched the tournament. Now my team is out, so I mean.
Duke choked.
Your women's team is still in, though, Rachel.
Yeah, that's true,
Shout out to them.
Donnie. That's true. As you
Going
catch me
against
up.
our women.
As you catch me up, we empower women. Donnie, as you catch me up.
I'm not saying I don't watch the women. I meant, yes, thank you, Donnie, for clarifying.
No, that wasn't Donnie clarifying. You don't know what Donnie's been doing lately.
What has Donnie been doing?
Donnie's been asserting himself in a scampish, directly confrontational way. Thank you, Donnie, for like everybody, because there's a bunch of people. Van don't care about what's going on with the women. When Van says Duke, he means the men. I was talking about the men, and maybe I wasn't talking about the women as much as I should have been. Donnie, I appreciate that, making me look like a chauvinist for the whole higher learning audience and all that stuff, different stuff that happens.
No, if this is what you're saying, it would be Rachel that would be the chauvinist. Not saying that that's true. I'm talking about Texas's women's team. I'm acknowledging their existence in the tournament. That's all.
Wow, Rach.
I thought you were only talking about the men, but okay.
Wow.
Okay, Donnie.
Or Duke's
Donnie gets a new speaker in the studio and starts really cutting up.
Donnie going for it right now.
All right.
You know what,
Donnie, your turn is coming.
Donnie, how about this? If we want to talk about stuff, how about you move to LA? How about that? How about we've been doing the podcast 6 years, you still in the woods out there murdering animals because they are making your life inconvenient. How about you do that. Remember he killed a snake no reason? Kill a snake no reason. I can understand if it was a fucking cobra or something like that. Donnie goes, snake, I don't like them. Boom. At the same time, the PCCA P22 was taking, the PCCA is a political organization I work with. P22 was taking his last breath. You kill a snake for no reason. So you don't come to me and do the things that you just did. That's unfair. You deal with yourself. All right. We love you, Donnie. Let's get into the show. Let's start off. We're going to talk a lot about the Republicans and the Democrats later on, but let's talk about black Republicans. There's black Republicans got going on right now. There's a lot of our celebrities, our beloved people are black Republicans.
We always find our way here.
Yeah.
You know, and Lizzo warned us.
What did Lizzo say?
Lizzo said after Lil Kim, did her, not Lil Kim, wow. After, Nicki Minaj did her tour and, teamed up with, why are you laughing? You get that fiendish gleam in your eye.
Think about what else Lizzo said.
Anyways, Nicki Minaj, she was out here, with Erica Kirk and Trump and all of that. She was like, you're going to start seeing, she basically said they're getting paid. She took this post down and she said, you're going to start seeing more of the people you love come out in favor because of money, favor of the Republican Party.
Okay. I'll say this. First of all, there's money that people are getting on both sides.
Sure. But we're talking about a specific thing. Yes.
I know. There's money that people are getting on both sides. I think there exists something on the right that a lot of people might not be aware of, that there doesn't exist on the left, on the left right now, which is there's not just money on the right. There are prominent behind the scenes people that are organizing on the right now to attract black celebrities to the MAGA cause. I don't know if that exists right now on the left as much because there might not be the need for it.
Okay.
And there's some fracturing and splintering that's going on. I do know that the Biden administration and obviously I know that people were paid. I mean, like I was approached in 2020 to give a paid endorsement. Did not do this, but I mean that's something that happens, right? Like something that goes on. So when people are saying that people are being paid, like that's nothing new.
Right, but I think it was her comment was how people felt so strongly about seeing Nicki Minaj in this way. And she's like, hold on, you'll probably see more people. Because people don't have as much of a strong reaction when they see a black person supporting the Democratic ticket as they do when it comes to, or just Democrats, when it comes to MAGA.
When I was approached to do it, what shocked me was the amount of money. I'm not popping. That's one of the ways I knew I wasn't popping.
They offered you a lot of money.
No, they didn't. It was like $4,000 or something like that. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I was approached, but we didn't even get that far with money because it was a conversation. Like they must have hit you up with the amount. There was a meeting.
So this is what happened. There was have I talked about this? I feel like I have. There was a meeting.
You said you were approached. You didn't get into detail.
Okay, so there was a meeting, and this meeting was about messaging. I have no problem with that, right? Like,
of course.
If you are trying to
convince
convince like younger black men to be politically active and turn out to vote, at that point, I was on a clear side in terms of who I wanted to be the president. And there was a meeting about how we talk about it, what we do, and all of that stuff. All of that stuff is cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then during this meeting, there was a conversation where it was like, you know, and if you put these things up, you know, there's a budget involved here. You'd be like, you know, $4,000 or $5,000. I was like, obviously I'm not going to take any money for political speech. I'm not going to do that, right? But at the same time, I was like, $5,000. The fuck? Like
So there was a price.
No, there wasn't a price. There would have been. But I just thought about, you know, because during that time, you know, I had done some stuff with Amazon, and Amazon had paid all of this money. Like, and this was like ads for different shows. And I was like, what y'all think? $5,000? Like, I'm a whack ass nigga. I need to keep building my career. Like $5,000, and I'm gonna say something political. Who the fuck? What?
A lot of people would take it. That's why.
Now I get it. And I understand. But like, the thing was for me is that there's gonna never be a time where I'm going to take any money for any type of political speech. I had already said even before then that I was completely against Donald Trump and supporting Joe Biden in that particular presidential election, even though I had all types of criticisms of the major party ticket, but I wasn't going to take any money to put anything on my Instagram or do anything else in terms of that.
Yeah, you know, when we talk to Butch Ware later, or when that interview plays, he makes the comment, whoever funds you runs you. Mm-hmm. And I just don't feel like I could be my true self on a social media platform, in an interview, or on this very podcast if I knew that I was getting paid or had been paid. I don't think I could be as clear-headed in what I wanted to say. Maybe if I gave the money back, maybe it felt different. But I didn't go to a meeting, but I definitely someone reached out to me via email about my interest of what that would look like. And for me, I cannot be me. And y'all call me QVC Rachel. There are certain things I could take money for, but politics is not one of them.
And let me tell you exactly what I mean. If I was to host like a town hall or something like that, if I am booked as talent, and that talent is, we're going to have a conversation with this, Van, you're going to run this. Mm-hmm. Like, I've taken money from like the NAACP to host events at the NAACP. Totally and all that stuff like that. If somebody brought me out and was like, hey, we're going to have a conversation about politics, well, that Van, you're going to host it. You're the talent. Cool. But if it's directly me evangelizing to the audience, hey, give this message and say this thing, and then you will be paid. No. Mm-hmm. I don't think that no. Yeah. I mean, people do that, that's fine. No. Yeah, I don't know that any of these people have done this, but what I will say is that there is organizing being done by prominent figures in hip hop behind the scenes to attract people to the MAGA cause. Yeah. So that is something that is happening. And look, this is what people do. They whip these votes and they get people involved, to people that are important in a way. I don't know that it's quite as nefarious as it's made out to be, but it is happening. Okay, Black Republicans, Donnie?
Yeah, let's start off with Chilli, 1/3 of TLC. She's denying the MAGA allegations following a report that was released by Media News that said that she had donated to Donald Trump's campaign. That outlet cited FEC records that show that she donated to several MAGA Republicans through her contributions to Trump's PACs, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, and Senator Ted Cruz. She posted a statement on Instagram saying that she attributes this to her not reading the fine print. And she also posted a video where she states her respect for Michelle Obama after she reshared a conspiracy video about the former First Lady's gender. Let's hear from Chilli.
Hey guys, I wanted to come on here to address a few things that's circulating on the internet that's very concerning to me. Let me say this first. I have the utmost respect and admiration for Michelle Obama, and I would never say or do anything that is disrespectful to her or to any woman. I would never do that. And I had no clue that this repost had happened until I started getting phone calls and text messages from everybody, and I immediately went to my page to see what was going on. Now, mind you, I'm not very computer savvy, so I'm looking for this repost button, and I see that all of these buttons are very, very close to each other. And clearly I was scrolling and my thumb hit the repost button. Again, I had no clue that something like this happened until I got all the calls. But of course, I took that down, and I would never post anything like that. I would never do something like that. That is not my character. I have supported the Obamas. I gave to the campaign, both runs, voted twice for him, and supported the organization that Michelle had in the schools for exercise for the kids. I would never do anything that's harmful or hateful to anybody. You know, I'm just not wired like that. That's just not who I am. And when it comes to organizations that I have donated to, these are the things that support the veterans. You know, I have always supported them, not just now, but for years. This is not something new. So I just wanted to let you guys know, you know, this from me, you know, that I would never do anything so disrespectful, and I would just never, I'm just not about hate or anything like that. You know, if you look on my page and see my posts, it's all about love, faith, and connection. That's what I'm all about, you know, and I've always been that way, and I will continue to be just that way. So I just want to thank you guys for, you know, your love and your support, and just taking the time to listen to me right now. I really, really appreciate that. And I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Nice message. So normally the name of this podcast is Higher Learning. But for this episode, that's not the name of the podcast.
What is it?
The name of the podcast for this episode is House of Love. Because in the conversations that we're about to have, we're about to put our love caps on for people that we, Rachel,
I'm waiting to hear what you're going to say.
I'm saying we're going to have conversations in love. In love for Chilli, in love for Nick Cannon, in love for Amber Rose. Love. The House of Love, as we break down these different situations and talk about them. And I just want to, you know, you're not buying it. You're not buying the House of Love narrative, but I want to challenge us to talk about these things in a way that's not quite as triggering as what it might be in another different pod.
Appreciate you trying to set the tone.
Nah, it's tough.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not making a face because you're saying house love. I mean, I did, but I understand the sentiment and where what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough because I don't like for you to talk to me like I'm stupid.
Yeah. You know, Chilli is clearly lying, and that's okay.
When does the tour start?
Okay. It's going on right now.
When does the tour start?
So, but I want, she's lying, and I want people to understand that that's okay. It's okay because we've lied. You know, people, it happens. That's a lie.
That's a lie.
It's a ridiculous one, and that's okay.
The only thing I might give her, right? Because I don't pay attention to her social media activity. I know there were reports of other people she was following. I was just looking it up on my phone. Unless she removed it or that was a different platform, I only looked on Instagram. I did not see her following some of the things that I've seen in posts circulating. And of course, you have to be clear because there's a lot of AI stuff and fake posts. I've been duped by them before going around out there. So I didn't see that. But what I will say is the only thing I'm going to give her. I have never reposted anything to the level of whatever she reposted in regards to being talking about Michelle Obama. But she is right. That little repost button that they have on Instagram, you can be scrolling and not even realize that you reposted it. Like you have to feel that the phone did something, or you have to see that it's checked in between. Like that, I will give her that. But then again, I say that is also something, that's a type of post that popped up in your algorithm.
It's in your algorithm.
It's in your algorithm. I've never seen that. That's not on my algorithm. It's not the type of information I consume. I'm not being fed that. So I will say she is correct. It is very easy to repost. I actually hate that feature, but
okay,
it was available to you. So let's get into what she said.
Let's do this. Okay, so, you know, I think I'm going to try to bifurcate this issue. Chilli, as a MAGA Republican, I don't really have an issue with. I don't. I'm just tell you right now. I don't have an issue with Chilli as a MAGA Republican. Vote for whoever you want. Be a MAGA Republican if you want, if that's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
The disrespect to Michelle Obama, to me, that is part and parcel with MAGA
With the
Republicanism,
ideology. Yep.
is kind of the thing that I have an issue more with.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because if you come out and you are a MAGA Republican, my conversation with you is going to be about why you are one, or what about MAGA Republicanism attracts you. Do you not see the inherent anti-blackness in it? What is the political conversation that we're having intracommunally with someone like Chilli or whatever? When we talked about Snoop, it was different because there was a change. There was a shift. This is not me saying that Snoop is necessarily a MAGA Republican. It's saying that he went to a party and was like, welcome to MAGA and the whole nine, where it had been fuck Donald Trump before then. That happened after there was a pardon for a gentleman that was close to him. That sort of transactionality is something that needs to be discussed, because if that sort of transactionality exists in the political sphere, the question would then be, where else does it exist? And can you rely on someone as a leader or a bellwether or whatever you want to call it in your community that could be that transactional? I think that's worth a conversation. I don't care so much that if Chilli is MAGA, I do think that people are going to care. And what the reason why the lie in and of itself, if I was going to be offended, I would be offended, is because if you're that, be that, and have the conversation with people as to why.
Yes. Or if you were that, right? And since the election, the way that he has conducted his second presidency, second term, and with the administration has caused you to change, then say that. I feel like this could have been a totally different conversation if you were more honest, because it's not just that you donated to Trump's PAC and to the National Republican Senatorial Committee and to Republican Senator Ted Cruz. It's also when you did it, right? You made 17 donations between April 2024 and November 2024, an election year. When did it stop? November 2024. That leads me to believe that you are MAGA. You were paying attention to what was happening on the campaign trail. You were paying attention to debates. You were supporting, this is even before Biden dropped out. Like, you were supporting all of these things that are related to MAGA, Project 2025, all of that. And you wanted to see this man in office. This is just my assumption based off of what I have in front of me. And you stopped donating in 2024 when the job was done. The reason I say don't talk to me like I'm stupid is, one, because of what I just said, 17 donations in 6 months, 7 months. The other thing is, you're telling me, well, I did it because I support and donate to causes in regards to veterans and also to human trafficking. Those are mighty causes to support, right? But if that is what you are motivated by, then there are a number of organizations that you can split your money to that aren't politically related. There are many organizations that do great work in regards to human trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, all of that. If that is what you're passionate about, right? I don't doubt you. Why not donate there instead? If it is in regards to veterans, same thing, same argument I made. But you specifically voted in a political or for politics in an election year because that is who you believed in. Yeah. That is who. That is what I mean about, like, please don't talk to us like we're stupid, because there are other ways to donate. If I was on Chilli's team, I would say, literally, I would say, because she says, I didn't read the fine print. I mean, honestly, Chilli, like, you didn't have to read the fine print when it came to Trump. Like, it is so obvious who he was, particularly in those last 6 months. And you could compare that to his first presidency. Like, you don't need to read the fine print. That is also a lie. Like, please stop saying these kinds of things. If you want to be people to believe you, and maybe this isn't true either, but what I would have done if I was her team is, one, not let her get on social media and talk. But two, I would have said exactly what I was saying. There's another way to talk about this. I was MAGA. I believed in the things. I voted on 2 important issues. I believed he was more about them than the other candidate. And I voted for him. And I supported his campaign, and then I saw that this is not what I signed up for. And I have to own that. But now you see that I haven't donated since. I have changed my ways. I am more educated. I am more knowledgeable. I appreciate the call out because I want to explain it, and I'm sure I'm not alone, that there are other people who were duped as well. That's what she should have said. I could have accepted that. I don't take it personal. So I'm to your point.
Yeah.
I'm not personally bothered by it, but it does feel convenient of the timing of you coming out. Of course, people did their research on her, and she is not the first and won't be the last Black public figure that we see this happen to. But I just don't appreciate you talking to me like I'm supposed to believe what you just said.
You know what's funny is I do appreciate it.
Okay.
You know, I'll tell you. So it's clearly a lie, and being that it's clearly a lie, I respect the lie.
Wow. So explain that logic. Because she stood in her lie? Because she was honest in her lie?
So let me tell you, like, under no examination does this fly, right? Because if you're talking about MAGA, so she's donating to Ted Cruz. Okay, like, you know, so it's, you know what I mean?
Texas.
Like she's donating to Ted Cruz. She's rallying the troops and trying to build the intellectual and political power base of what seemingly she agrees with. Okay, what people need to understand, especially like celebrities, luminaries, and all of that stuff like that are getting involved in the politics is traction. It can be compromised, but it's traction. I am in traction with you. We have friction if you are MAGA. Mm-hmm. If you are MAGA and you believe in what Donald Trump is doing domestically, if you believe in what Donald Trump is doing in terms of foreign policy, if you believe in the overall political project of MAGA republicanism, we are in traction. Mm-hmm. We're in traction from an emotional standpoint with the way they go about it. We're in traction from a policy standpoint. We're in traction with the way that they use terms like CRT or DEI or whatever.
So an intellectual.
To like what?
Intellectual as well.
Right. Like we are in traction. Now, I will respect that you understand that if you can demonstrate why it is you believe what you believe. Mm-hmm. If you can demonstrate to me or to anyone else why you believe what you believe, I will respect our traction. I will look at you as an enemy. I will. I'm sorry. I'll look at you as an enemy. But I'll respect the traction that we have. The glamoring part of it is interesting. I can respect it because she's bowing to pressure from the community. She's bowing down to the litany of people that said, you know what? We're not going to fuck with you anymore. Now, I'm not saying that she's doing that because she's hurt. She's doing that because it will hurt her bottom line.
Yes.
You guys. Here's the deal.
Yes.
It's very simple. This is interesting. This is a very interesting thing. If you move in Black spaces and Black circles, there are going to be a number of Black people that have a problem with you fucking with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
There are going to be a number of Black people that have a problem. We're not going to, like, I will not look at you the same, just like you might not look at me the same, being that I am a socialist. Somebody call me a Marxist, all of that. You might not look at me the same. But
you love that.
I don't love it. I love love. House of love. What I love is love. I love to argue, so I don't mind the arguments. I'm not offended by anybody's political stances. But there are political stances that you can have and politics that you can have that put you in direct opposition to what I believe is good for people.
Yeah. Donnie wrote, tickets for the tour dropped last Thursday.
Can't be fucking up the tour.
Jade wrote that. Shout out to Jade.
Sorry, Jade. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jade.
No
Tour
problem.
starts in August. I mean, they were like, you better get on your social media and make a statement. Now, listen, to your point, she is entitled to believe whatever it is that she believes. I would rather you stand in it than talk to us like they talk to you. But I mean, you have to accept the consequences, to your point, which it might be that people might not want to go on this tour now, knowing that the money they give you may support a belief, a policy, a politician that they don't believe in.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
and that's fair. And that's fair.
Well, of course it's fair.
I'm talking about, look at my page.
Hold on.
My page is full of love.
I know, but this is what I'm saying. Like, people like curtail their support for people for all kinds of reasons. Here at The Ringer, sometimes there are fans of other podcasts that do not enjoy me as much. Why? Because I'm going to bring up race. I'm going to get in fights on Twitter. I'm going to talk about politics. It's not always going to be, hey, let's talk about Freddy Krueger. Right? It's not always going to be that. Okay? It's not always going to be, hey, sometimes I'm going to fuck up the pod by talking about the political and racial dynamics of a movie or a show or the NBA or whatever. I'm going to talk about those things because those things to me are important to talk about. I live with the people that go, I don't fuck with that. I didn't turn on this to hear you spout your bullshit. I turned on this to hear about Victor Wembanyama. Okay? So you take that shit out of here. You race obsessed. But I live with that. My thing is, with this, a part of this shit is people saying there is a political movement and project right now that we feel like is an existential threat to many different aspects of American life. And if you are a part of that, maybe we don't want to watch you sing and dance.
Yeah.
It's your choice to be a part of that, and it's their choice to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
So, if you believe this from Chilli, then whatever. But, I guess more to the point is, let me ask you this. Ask the whole room this. So she's obviously capitulated and she's completely broken down and said she's not a part of this, whatever. Good to go to the concert now?
It's tough.
If you were not going to go before. If you were not going to go before, would that apology make you go?
I legit was at a dinner last week and we were looking up tickets to TLC, Group of Girlfriends. And now I'm like, why? I don't know. I don't know if I want to spend the money to do it at this point. I just don't know. And then listen, it's not just her. You got Salt and Pepper. You got In Vogue there as well, and T-Boz. But I don't know. Now
do you have to agree with somebody politically to enjoy their art or support what it is that they're doing and all of that stuff?
No. Like I'm not saying I would not go. It just now I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. You might see me there. Yeah. You might see me there.
Because there's so many other artists that are performing and stuff.
There are other artists that are performing. I do enjoy their music. Who knows? Maybe she never, even the statement, right? I believe she doesn't think she's MAGA, but she does support Ted Cruz, but she does support Trump. I bet she doesn't call herself that. I bet a lot of people who endorse MAGA policies would be like, oh, but I'm not MAGA. I could see that. I don't know. August is a long time away, and she ain't even coming to August 1st. I think she comes here in October. So give me 6 months.
All of that's fine, but the post about Michelle Obama that's part of it. That indicates something more than politics, right? I mean, there are people out there who believe that you could have a different set of politics that would make you vote for President Trump. That's just a political thing. That you are, I don't know, fiscally conservative. He spent more than any goddamn.
Yeah, we're
president.
past that.
But look, I know. But listen though, there are people who make that right. Who like, I believe in this. I believe in that. I vote for the economy, all of that stuff. The economy was better. All of these things that we could talk about and dissect and all of that. But when the Michelle Obama jokes and stuff like that come in, when some of the other stuff happens, once again, that is a cultural endorsement of the emotional temperature of MAGA. That's and by the way, I'd argue that there might not be another reason, another way to do it. That if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. You have to accept President Trump's dehumanizing language. You have to accept President Trump's grotesque, arrogant, dickheadish nature that part of being MAGA is not just an acceptance of that, but an endorsement of that.
It is, because that rhetoric that he has, that ideology that he has, and those that surround him in his administration, and those who are the authors of Project 2025, all of that pours into the very policies that directly impact Black and brown people. So you can't separate it. You cannot. But, House of Love here, as Van has said, she said you can look at her social media and see that she's about love, and they did, and they saw that Michelle Obama post. So, I mean, now what, Chilli?
So that wasn't much love on there.
I don't know. Like, I could see the argument. Again, I've accidentally reposted, but not that.
It's happened. You've accidentally reposted stuff. What did you repost?
Oh, I don't know. It was just like, oops, I didn't mean to repost that. I don't know, scrolling, but it wasn't anything like that. It might have been, I don't know, your post. Oops, I didn't mean to repost it.
Oh, really? Interesting. Wow, you're not gonna repost my shit?
House of Love.
House of Love. House of Love.
House of
This is not guys higher learning anymore. This is the House of Love. We
Higher Learning presents
the House of Love. What happened to me in the next thing is really profound. Donnie, Nick Cannon.
Yeah, Nick Cannon was joined by Amber Rose on a recent episode of his show Big Drive, where they talked about a bunch of different things, including one of Van's favorite topics, being biracial, Trump not being racist necessarily, according to Amber, and Amber's opinion of white people being able to say nigga. Which
tough.
Do y'all want to talk about first?
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about.
We have several clips, sorry.
We have several clips. The first thing I want to talk about is the timing. Because I actually, just to let you guys know, I hit Nick up.
I did too.
Okay. And I love Nick Cannon. I have a lot of love for Nick Cannon. Have a lot of respect for Nick Cannon, right? So I hit Nick Cannon. And the first thing I did was get on him. The moment I said that Nick Cannon is an awesome guy, Nick Cannon said, I fuck with Trump. So I took this personally, just energetically. Who wants to fuck? I made this completely about me. Nick fucked me hard.
Where did you say he was awesome?
Oh, Jesus Christ! On the pod where we were talking about Rosama. Remember?
Okay.
We were talking about
Rosama. He told you about 6WA.
Nick Cannon's 6WA. Nick Cannon's a great, awesome guy. The next thing, hey, I fuck with Trump. Man, what the fuck is going on? Okay. Donnie, play the clip that got people going crazy at first. The Democrats of the party of the KKK thing. Play that. I fuck with Trump shit.
Part of the Republican Party.
That's right. Former Democrat, former liberal.
Yeah.
I was a liberal Democrat my whole life.
Is that because the bag has got so intense and so heavy that you had a whole nother, you up there with the elite now? Or?
Not even close. Not even close. Democrats don't care about black people.
Okay,
and they don't care about people. They don't care about people of color. And the Republicans do, and that's the misconception.
And you know what? I agree with you 100%.
Thank you,
People
Nick.
don't know that the Democrats is the party of the KKK.
Yep.
People don't know that the Republicans are the party that freed the slaves.
Yep.
I mean, both of you and I have some conservative views. You just a little bit more outspoken about it than I am. And I don't subscribe to neither party. I rock with W.E.B. Du Bois when he said there's no such thing as two parties. It's just one evil party with two different names. So
yeah, I mean, look, I listen, I'm not married to any party.
Right.
I voted for Donald Trump because we had two options and he was definitely by far the better option for us. And as of now, I agree with a lot of things that he's doing.
Cleaning house.
Yeah.
He doing what he said he was
Guess
gonna
what? If there's a time where I don't agree, I'll say I don't agree.
Yeah. We got the Gulf of America now.
Period.
Charging, he's like the club. He's charging a $5 million bottle service fee to get into the country.
I know. Listen. But guess what?
House of Love. Rachel, this is not higher learning. What's the name of this podcast today?
House of Love.
Jade, come on, guys. What's the name of the podcast?
House of Love.
Bernard, Donnie, what's the name of the podcast today?
It's House of Love today.
It's how you guys are so excited about it. House of Love. Okay. Now, okay. Now, here's the thing. I respect our audience. So I don't want to disrespect our audience.
Okay.
And it would be disrespectful to the intelligence of our audience.
To explain some of that?
I want you to listen to what it would be for me to go through
the history.
Yeah,
you don't
of
need to.
the party shift.
You don't need to.
Between the Democrats and the Republicans, which, by the way, I want to say this. I'm not a Democrat, right? But just an easy thing would to say would be, you know what? David Duke ran in the 80s for governor of Louisiana and held office. He was the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. He ran as a Republican. It will be easy to say that we've seen in several different group chats that come from young Republicans and older, more established Republican figures, some of the most vile, racist, white supremacist, anti-Semitic language, right? The Republican Party right now, as we speak, is clearly embroiled in a white supremacist existential struggle for the soul of the party. Most people I know that, right?
I would have thought Nick Cannon would have been one of those people.
I would have too.
And I think that's it. I really thought he would have been one of those people to not make that statement.
Because when and it doesn't matter, if you don't fuck with the Democrats, don't fuck with the Democrats. Listen, if you think right now that the Democrats have largely failed black people in moving our fundamental existence in America, in giving better outcomes to black people, if you think that's true, that is a conversation that is so robust, ripe. I love it, right? I love to have the conversation about what you're getting for your vote, whatever party you're voting for. But when you say things like this that are this incendiary, the party of the KKK and all of that, you simply could not be a major Democratic
House of Love.
House of Love.
How do you mention, and this is why I say I was surprised Nick Cannon made that comment, because how do you then go on in this conversation to talk about W.E.B. Du Bois and then talk about Trump in the same way? Like, I believe in the teachings of this, and you quote it, and then you're like, but Trump's my guy. I don't understand. And so like that's where I'm like, okay, you're quoting this historical figure who was so crucial to the advancement of our people. I mean, one of the founders of the AACP. But how do you speak in that way? But historically be so wrong in what you're saying? Like, how are you educated on that? But then you get this so wrong. Oh. And then you put two people who could not be more opposite together. You big up this cultural icon, and then you big up Trump in the same sentence. It just makes no sense to me. Like, what are we doing? House of Love, I'm asking genuine questions of trying to understand. It was such an erratic, this topic of conversation that I'm like, what? It almost was like you're just saying stuff to say it that's not rooted in anything. You're throwing a name out here, I guess, to build up the argument that you're trying to make, but then you're factually wrong in what you're saying here in regards to history, and then you have a complete misunderstanding of how problematic this Donald Trump is as the president of the United States, and how what he does directly impacts black people, to where a W.E.B. Du Bois would be totally against. And the things that Trump is trying to do are taking us all the way backwards to these Democrats, to a time, not exactly, but a time to where these Democrats who created the KKK existed, like very similar ideologies. Like, I just don't understand.
Well, what it really is, actually, the Democrats are the party of the KKK, is actually a right-wing talking point.
Yeah, yes.
And so that is a right-wing talking point. That statement, to me, indicates capture, because the statement, while accurate in terms of House of Love,
It's an ignorant statement. I can say that in love.
House of Love.
You have to say that.
Yeah, okay.
I said an ignorant statement. I did not categorize him as I'm saying it is an ignorant statement, and it is.
Well, what I'll say is if the Democrats were the party of the KKK then the Republicans certainly are the party of the KKK now.
That's what I mean.
Okay, so the party right now, this is the seat of white supremacists, white supremacy, and like has to literally kowtow to a white supremacist base who can agree on one thing, and that one thing is that they don't want niggas to have shit. Now, if we're negotiating what is failure against to live up to your political promises, and we can also negotiate if you want or talk about if you want the veracity or the sincerity in political promises that people make. We can talk about that. If you're negotiating that with someone, if you're discussing that, and the other side is legitimate impediment to what I believe is progress specifically for black people, I think the conversation gets a little bit easier for a lot of people. If it's particularly when you're talking about the MAGA Republicans, they use black people and things done for black people as a mascot for American inefficiency. They legitimately say your plane will crash because your pilot is black. Yeah, it's like your plane will crash because your pilot is a black lesbian. Like you're less safe. You're less safe if the country is in the hands of anyone other than the white men who run it. And they say that because, the DEI and all of that stuff, they use all of this stuff, the inclusion of black people into American society as an indication that American society is failing. Just look what happened when we gave the niggas a slice of stuff. That's not even a talking point or a policy position that's controversial on the right now. It's been ratcheted up to a degree. Hey, listen, real quick. We've played this before, but we're going to play it again. This is Ronald Reagan's campaign manager, Lee Atwater, discussing, this is in the 80s, House of Love, discussing how, in fact, you make a racist platform without being an outright racist. This is coming from somebody who is incredibly influential and legitimately the modern architect of Republican politics, who is Ronald Reagan. Donnie?
You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts your backfire. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And subconsciously, maybe that is part of it. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we're doing away with the racial problem one way or the other. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut taxes, we want to cut this, and we want is much more abstract than even the busing thing. And a hell of a lot more abstract than nigger.
There you have a very direct understanding of how they're communicating to their base. And the reason why they have to communicate with their base that way. The grander conversation that Atwater is having right there is, we have to do this. We have to villainize black people as a means of currency with our base. We have to do it. We just have to do it in a way that's more nuanced. Like, that is the thing. Now, you can say whatever you want about the modern liberal movement. They might have to lie to black people, but they certainly don't have to do that because black people make up too much of their power base. So, it's interesting that this conversation kind of gets here because it is so sublimely wrong when you talk about it in that way that you wonder if there's actually any investigation of it. But I'll say this, all of that stuff is what it is. You could feel that way. The other part that's really interesting is the I fuck with Trump part. Amber's made her feelings on this known. There's no need to really get into that.
But yes, I was surprised again to hear Nick say, I fuck with Trump. So then I'm like, okay, you make this statement. Why? There's no answer.
Well,
he literally's like, Gulf of America. He stands on what he means. I would, and like, again, Nick comes here to talk. My question is, why?
Yeah.
Why do you? That's how you lead with love, and you have these conversations, because I want to understand. Big statement. A lot of people might be shocked to hear you say that. Some people might not. My initial thing, my follow-up is, why? And I get frustrated. I got frustrated as I was listening to these two talk, because you couldn't tell me why. Why, for a person you know is polarizing, for a person you know is controversial, for a person you know Black people typically do not rally around, you as a Black public figure say, not you understand him, not you like him, you fuck with him. Like, you go hard.
Why
for
do
him.
you think he fucks with Trump? Why do you think?
I honestly do not know.
So it's interesting, like,
because when just really quickly, when Amber's talking about it, he goes, oh, he assumes, he goes, oh, is it because, he doesn't say because you're conservative. He says, oh, because you got money now. Is that why you do it? And she goes, no. She's like, I was blue, I was liberal, I'm conservative. And he's like, yeah, we both are. So if I had to guess, maybe he would say a financial, like he stands on business. I'm a businessman. Maybe that's it. But I don't know, because he did not tell us. I'm not even going to do the work for him and assume it.
Well, I mean, look, one thing he told me was that this interview was taped a long time ago. It's like taped like a year ago or something like that. Now,
then don't put it out.
Well, I mean, look, because the reality is, in Trump's first year, it's actually wreaking havoc on Black people.
First 100 days,
like wreaking havoc on Black people.
He rolled back shit in 24 hours.
You guys, I'll say this, just real quick. When he says he fucks with, I wonder what he fucks with. Does he fuck with Trump's DOJ dropping a lawsuit that Black people in Alabama had brought that was forcing them to drink shitty water? I don't think Nick Cannon fucks with that. Does he fuck with the fact that Black unemployment right now is at incredible highs?
Yep.
Up 1.7% since Donald Trump took office. Something like 500,000 Black women are out of the workforce.
Yeah.
Out of the workforce through a combination of Trump's assault on DEI, his assault on the federal workforce, and the tariffs that Donald Trump implemented, causing layoffs all over the place. And when those layoffs happen, Black people, Black women, Black men, we don't talk about the fact how many of them are out of the workforce or the first to go. I know Nick Cannon don't fuck with that, right? I'm imagining Nick Cannon, the guy that I know, he can't fuck with starting wars abroad, right? On a whim, twice the sort of adventuring that America is doing all over the world. I don't think he fucks with that. I don't think he fucks with the threatening to take Greenland by force. I don't think he fucks with that. I can't believe that some of this stuff that we're talking about, I cannot believe that Nick Cannon would fuck with that. I can't believe that he would be into an assault on the voting rights of Black people, an assault on their ability to change from Trump, right? An assault. If I sat down with Nick Cannon and I explained to him what the SAVE Act is and how, or talked about it, I don't want to make it seem like I explained anything to the nigga. If I talked to him about the fact that the SAVE Act is in form and function something that is going to be used to disenfranchise Black and brown people, I just don't think he would fuck with that. I don't believe that he would fuck with that. So when he says that he fucks with Trump, like, what do you fuck with?
Hopefully he comes on here and he answers it.
Yeah.
Maybe put something out. It's interesting, even more so, that you say that this was filmed a year ago, because you have the option, this is your platform, to either, one, put a disclaimer out if you really felt like you didn't want to waste maybe her time or your crew's time or whatever. Two, you could have just not released it. If you don't believe, a year from now, okay, maybe your opinions did change. You gave that space to Chilli. Maybe things did change for you. Okay, well, maybe things did change for you. But why would you put it out? If you put it out, it leads me to believe that that's exactly where you still stand here in March 2026. You still believe that exact same thing. The list goes on and on. You want to quote W.E.B. Du Bois? Let's talk about book bans. Let's talk about changes in education. Let's talk about rolling back all of that. Like, there's so many things that seem to be anti what Nick Cannon, I thought, was about, which is why I say I'm not going to do the work for him and assuming it. I would love to know what you mean. And I get frustrated when I watch platforms like this or conversations like this where they speak on such a surface level or throw out these things that they believe to be factual or opinions that they have without anything else to back it up. Like, laughing over, to me, the changing of the Gulf of America felt so unserious. Like, you're talking about somebody who is wreaking havoc not just in this country, but outside of it. Like, we may never recover from the things that he's doing, and you're laughing about the Gulf of America as if that's the most outrageous thing he's done. Like, to me, the stakes are too high. And it felt like they were having a very light conversation about something that I feel like we and other people take very seriously. So it was just a really disappointing thing for me to see. Like you said with Amber Rose, she's out there. I'll give it to her. She explains her stuff just a little bit better. Not that I agree with it in any way than Nick did in that moment, but at least, like, with her, she spoke at the RNC. Like, we've seen it. We know where she stands. But with him, just to either agree, not push back, or even co-sign or put out your own statement aligned with her, it's disappointing. I'm gonna say disappointing because House of Love.
House of Love. Okay, so they also talked about the fact that they don't think that Donald Trump is a racist.
Yeah.
And so the reason why I want to discuss this is because this is another interesting thing about Donald Trump. Donnie, play that clip.
Even Trump, like, Trump has always been known, like, before people was hating on him, like, he would be at all the events with, like, Russell Simmons and all the black parties.
Yeah.
Like, he fuck with black women, like.
He had black girlfriends.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Publicly.
Like Trump has always been, that nigga was on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yep. And he didn't have to do that.
But when he got political, that's when, people start putting the racist jacket on.
It's all propaganda.
I honestly don't think he's racist. I think he's Trumpist.
Here's the thing. If Trump was racist, right? Let's say he was pandering just to get the vote.
Yeah.
Right? Why is he still doing shit for black people right now? He could have been like, yo, fuck y'all. I got your vote. I don't give a fuck about y'all. I'm already in office. I can't run another 4 years.
So, you know what's interesting to me about Donald Trump? And this is something that happens, like, for white guys. This happens for white guys. White supremacy inverts the way we tell somebody's story. Mm-hmm. So if my story was being told a lot of times in the mainstream by other people, even by some black people, it would start with the most ill shit that I did. Right? There would be a large conversation around the fact that I worked at TMZ for a long time. There would be a conversation of whatever. Like, the conversation in America about me begins in scrutiny of me. Mm-hmm. I'm a black guy, right? It begins in scrutiny of me. White supremacy inverts that to where the conversation around prominent and powerful white men, I'm not saying I'm either prominent or powerful, those conversations begin in acceptance. So everything that disproves that Donald Trump is a racist is what gets discussed. And things that run both concurrently with the era that they are talking about and things that happen after do not get discussed. So for example, if we talked about the fact that Donald Trump was sued for housing discrimination, right. If we talk about the fact that Donald Trump wrote an open letter in I think it was the New York Times, might have been a Post.
I think it was a Post.
Against the exonerated five, calling for the death penalty.
That was political, by the way. That's a little bit of politics in that.
That's politics, of
course. So what I'm saying, Nick was like, when he got in politics, people had an issue. He's been involved.
Right.
Okay.
If we talk about the fact that Donald Trump got involved in birtherism, which was the far right-wing conspiracy that Barack Obama was not born in America. He was a part of that. He was a part of promoting that. He was a part of the conversation around that. And that was directly coming downstream of people who wanted to question the identity of Barack Obama. We'll talk about any of this stuff. We'll talk about any of the other reports surrounding people who talk about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump saying at one point that he wouldn't want a black lawyer, stuff like that being reported. If we talk about any of the indications or the clues that Donald Trump, a story just came out literally just recently, once again, this was taped a while ago, that said that Donald Trump did not want to promote a black female general, did not, because he didn't want to have to stand next to her.
Yes.
So if we just had a conversation about all of the other things that point to the fact that there might be a race problem or that Donald Trump might be a racist, we don't really do that. We say that he hung out with some rappers, he was cool with a couple of black luminaries. That must mean that he is not a racist. We make that type of excuse. We give that type of soft bed to lie on. We make those types of we launder things intellectually for powerful white men. We do. Like, he can't be that bad. Look at him. He can't be that bad. He's one of us. He fucks with us. He does all of this stuff. And it's just not something that's ever done with anyone that we're trying to do it for Nick Cannon right now. Mm-hmm. We're trying to speak in love about Nick Cannon because I know that Nick Cannon is a good dude. And so I'm trying to do for him what oftentimes is not done for black men, what didn't get done for Nick Cannon a couple of years ago when he got fucked up and got in trouble. He talks about that.
He alludes to it. He doesn't get into it.
He talks like when he got fucked up and got in trouble. What people didn't do was go, you know what? This is a guy that might have some wrong information, might have said something that he didn't really understand the ramifications of. Let's look at the totality of him and figure out how we can get over this. No, what actually happened was, fuck all of that. What we need from you now is a complete crawfishing from all the stuff that you said, which was wrong, and an assurance that you understand how dangerous it is. A lot of people got on his ass for that. I didn't get on his ass for it at all. And the reason why I didn't is because if you care about people, that is what you should do. Mm-hmm. But people like Donald Trump never have to do that. Mm-mm. There is no accountability that goes into the things that they've done. Like, Donald Trump is the greatest businessman in the entire world. So many different companies have gone bankrupt. His reputation just defies logic. He's the smartest guy that says the dumbest things. He's the best businessman that goes incredibly bankrupt, right? He's the non-racist guy that's been involved in some profoundly racist things. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm tripping because like, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And even now, to have a platform centered around the elimination of programs meant to help black people close the gap in society, but yet not a racist, never been a racist because he had a black girlfriend, which I don't know when he publicly.
I don't know. I've never
black
seen
girlfriend
that.
Are they talking about? What public black girlfriend did Trump have? Did I miss that?
When they said it, I was like, who? But also, I do not care. I do not care if he had a black girlfriend. That doesn't go towards the argument. It is so interesting with the Trump thing because it's like you want to give all these excuses. He was on Fresh Prince or he's in rap songs or whatever, but then you can and you don't see how they use that to try to draw you in and say like he's cool or he's down for you or that doesn't make him racist. But then you can so clearly see how you look at Biden and Biden's history or what Biden said on the Breakfast Club or Bill Clinton and how he used to play the saxophone and all that. But now you see the crime bill. You can see all of that, right? But you can't see it with Trump. This is what I will say, and I'll keep it very short on the racism or Trump not being a racist. I would ask if Nick or Amber were sitting right here, I would say, what makes you racist? I'd be very curious as to what even their definition is of a racist. And then from that definition, I will point out the ways I don't know what they would say, but I would point out the ways in which Trump either has been overtly or covertly racist in words, in actions, in policies, whatever it may be. But I would be really interested in how they even define what it is to be a racist, because I wonder if it would differ from maybe how we would do it. Yeah. But that's how I would start that conversation. Because as you just talked about and laid out so well, there are so many ways in which he is that I don't know if it's you just don't know these things, you just choose to ignore them, or maybe you just have a totally misunderstanding of what that word means to you. Also say it's interesting that the first thing he said was, when he's like, Trump's not a racist, he hangs out with Russell Simmons.
Tough.
That's interesting.
Tough. You know what's interesting? Going back, we'll have to spend too much time on this. I'm going to get to one more point on it, though. I have to. I have to do it. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get
House
to one
of
more.
Love. We know where we're going.
House of Love.
No, this is for the audience, okay? Because Van has to address this, so you have to approach him, give him this moment.
House of Love.
It's reciprocal.
Going back to it, even the W.E.B. Du Bois thing is interesting to me, because if I was riding with my brother Nick, and he is my brother. He is. Nick has talked about the things that he does in the community.
None of this is personal.
And he said W.E.B. Du Bois. I guess I would ask, how are people supposed to learn about W.E.B. Du Bois?
Well, that's what I said. He rolled back the books.
Like, how are we supposed to Nick went to Howard and got his education and went there. But somebody as critical of the status quo in American society as he was, other people that are critical of that, black people, the tradition of black intellectualism that has been assaulted by MAGA regimes in Florida, in Alabama, Louisiana, wherever, that have sought to realign or actually redefine what black history actually is, soften it, water it down, and take any of the power out of it. The sort of group of people that want to coalesce around Martin Luther King Jr. as an American Santa Claus and not as what he actually was, which was a man who had a radical view of what he believed equity and equality were and got his fucking head blown off for it. We're supposed to learn about that when the Trump administration and the MAGA movement want to take black history out of schools. I mean, I'm going to make sure everyone knows. I'm going to go places and do the scholarship and do the reading all on my own. Mm-hmm. But as important as it is for me to know about those people, as a black man, somebody who cares about the state of the world, it's equally as important for white students in classes to know about these people.
Yep.
It's important. It's incredibly important because they need to know that there's a history and tradition in black people seeking their freedom and their equality in America. This didn't happen after Dr. King. It's not something that happened in the 90s. We're not going to get there through rap music. We're not going to get there through hip hop. We're going to get there through the same cultural scientific experimentation that we've always endeavored into. And when we don't teach that, when there's an assault on that, it's an assault on not only the actual history, but the humanity of black people, the humanity of who we are. It's an attempt to tell our story through the lens of a clearly oppressive regime. And I just know Nick Cannon don't fuck with that. I just know he don't. I know he don't. Last thing, I have to say this though, play this real quick. This is Amber Rose and Nick Cannon on biracialism, the act of being biracial.
But people think I'm saying that with like an attitude. I love black people. My kids are black. My mom is black. You're black. People I love are black.
Right.
It's not a racist thing. It's a matter of fact thing. Biracial people are not black people. We're just not.
Now, when you talk to other biracial people, how do they feel about what you? Do they agree with you?
To each his own.
Do most of them say, finally, you said it? Or like,
yes.
People don't understand
Most of them say that. Finally, Amber is saying it for us.
Right.
You put the glasses on.
Yeah. So according to Amber Rose, there are secret biracial meetings where they get together and they talk about the fact that they hate being saddled with blackness.
She didn't
Wow.
say it like that.
Hold on, wait a minute now. I just want to let you guys know that I said on this podcast that there was a biracial jihad, that they were meeting and having conversations about different things, and I was excoriated. I did not know that the audience would have this much of an issue with any one thing that I said besides the January crash out. Okay. But now we have really one of the most high-profile biracials that exist right now, saying she talks to other biracials. They have their own language. They have their own culture. They have their own cultural traditions. And they say, Amber, thank you for denying your blackness, because now it gives me the right to deny mine as well. I would say, if we were in the courtroom, Rachel.
What would you do?
I would use this as an exhibit. I would say, hey, maybe the idea of the beige jihad is not as crazy as it sounds. Maybe there's something to it.
I'm not even participating in the conversation. Okay, well, this was all you. This was like a gift to you. As soon as I saw it in the interview, I pressed stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Because I knew you would carry it on.
Yeah, it's tough. By the way, I've never seen an interview with more rocks in it.
What do you mean?
Well, you could watch an interview and there could be a lot of gems. But this one has some motherfucking rocks in it. There was some rocks in this bitch. I'm sorry, I just gotta keep it real. Like this one had there was some rocks in that bitch. Amber talked about why white people should be able to say nigga. I'm like, yo, man, what are they y'all fucking with me? This is a joke.
She literally said that if we stop being so sensitive about those words, it would like cure everything. Like if we just allowed everybody to say it, like we wouldn't have racism, it would cure everything. And I was like, what are we okay?
House of Love.
What? But that's a loving question.
That's a loving question.
Are we okay?
House of Love.
Are you okay?
So
like what?
Yeah.
As if it was that fucking simple, we would have already done the shit.
Yo,
come on.
Like I'm saying.
Come on. Then you gonna talk about the difference? You've already just told us you ain't black. Then you gonna educate us on the N-word. What?
Do you know what's interesting about this? Seriously, as I'll give the biracial bit a break, guys. I will. I do talk to Butch Ware about it later on because
it naturally came up.
Made a startling discovery with talking to Butch Ware.
Not startling.
A startling discovery, and you guys are not going to want to miss the way this came out. Like a startling discovery in talking to Butch Ware. I would have never known. I wonder when this happened for her. I did an interview with Amber Rose where she definitively told me that she was black. That was probably that was on a red pill. So that was like 19, maybe 18, but probably like 19. I would say probably 19 was like when the red pill was really, really kind of getting going, like, because the Kanye shit was like in 18. So, until they fucking fired me. But I did an interview on the red pill with Amber, cool with Amber. Me and Amber had it out. But Amber said, straight up in this interview, she said, I am black. So she became biracial in the last 6 or 7 years. Unless she meant she is black and biracial. But in this clip, I'm going to find that and I'm going to send that. Actually, Donnie, put that in right now.
So yes, I am black. My mother is black.
In this clip though, in this clip, she says clearly that she is biracial and not black.
Not black. But then later, and at one point she says, I'm white. She said that.
So that's recent though. Because I talked to her, literally, you guys heard it. I talked to her and she said, I'm black.
Confused.
Yeah, anyway. All right, we can move off that now. Rachel, we got time for one more before we get in the Butch. This is a long podcast. What you want to do? Hold on for a second.
You know what you want to do.
I got to talk about the Kanye West.
Well, then that's the only one to do. Because the rest of the stuff, Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So look, you know what? Why though? Because this is the thing. Is a lot of times what happens to me on the pod is not fair.
Go ahead. Keep going. What do you mean? What's not fair? That I said you.
Oh, Trump's black ex. Here it is, right here. They showed her. Her name is her ex-girlfriend, Cara Young, a black model she was a rising star in fashion during the 90s. is speaking on allegations that he is racist. She was introduced through Russell Simmons. She said she never saw Trump as racist during the relationship, though she admitted to be unsettled by some of his later public remarks. She believes that racist white men are not attracted to black women. However, Young says that Trump did have distorted views of blacks, but she didn't consider those views to be racist. Okay, so shout out to her. The idea that racist white men aren't attracted to black women is defeated by history.
Yeah.
just shout out to her. Like, shout out to her. Shout out to her. The idea, I'll say again, that's actually funny. The idea that racist white men aren't attracted to black women, history defeats that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like they literally kept them in slavery and then raped them at the same time. The fact that like they don't like that, history defeats that. That's defeated by history.
Yeah.
That over. Like history defeats that. So yeah, Kanye West dropped.
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 entertainment topics, and you don't want me to. Why don't you want me to talk about?
I never said that. I actually hold space to you because of the whole you Kanye thing.
Yeah.
I actually never said don't talk about it. For me, I'm not as interested in it. I don't have like the ties to it. So I saw it. And I'm like, okay, we'll probably talk about this in the podcast. I'm not telling you not to talk about it. Do you want me to tell you not to talk about it?
There's a thing. This is
no. I don't care.
You don't care that he dropped.
I don't care. For me, too much has happened. I don't care. I saw the video he released. I see all the talk. We have to pay attention to it. Obviously, it's a big conversation happening in the culture. But I would never deny you the space to talk about it on this podcast. I don't care. I'm the one who said of all the topics we have to. Come on.
You know who used to do this?
Go ahead.
No, what you're doing to me is triggering me. Do you know why? You know who used to do this? Ian.
I'm not Ian right now.
Ian used to do this type of shit. Ian, like, I would see a girl and I would be like, damn, she pretty. And Ian would be like, yeah, if that's what you like. I'd be like, what?
He held space for your differences.
I'll be like, so that girl right there is not pretty. He's like, Van, I'm not saying she's not pretty. I'm saying if that's what you like, then cool, bruh. And then we would start doing something else. I'd be like, Ian, why are you acting this way? He's like, go talk to her. Go talk to her. See, see how her ears are? That's interesting. And I'd be like, what? What's wrong with the ears? Like that's how I feel. You're doing this to me. I would go talk to her anyway. But you're okay. So Kanye West dropped Bully. Bernard, did you listen to Bully? Okay, Bernard, did you listen to Bully? Okay, Bernard listened to it. Jay, did you listen to Bully?
I listened to it.
But Jay listened to it. Rachel, you didn't, right?
I did not listen.
Donnie, did you listen to Bully?
Negative. No,
because you were too out. You were busy killing animals. So like what it dropped, and I was very interested to hear, number one, how it sounded, and number two, what he was saying.
I bet.
Okay. And these are the answers to those questions. It sounded fantastic. He was saying nothing.
I looked up the lyrics to the Father song.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
I mean,
I was shocked.
Shocked with what?
There wasn't, to your point, to the latter. He didn't say much.
Now, I will say this. There's a way, and the sonics are great. Like, he's got kind of an industrial craft work kind of feel to it, kind of the same vibe that Ye's been on for a little while. The sonics are great. The interesting question to me isn't why Kanye isn't saying anything on Bully. The interesting question is why. I'll take that again. The interesting thing about Bully is not that Kanye isn't saying anything. The interesting question is why isn't he saying anything? And there are a couple of answers. One answer is that there's so much that's happening with him and so much that has happened. And I should say that he became a full fucking Nazi. Mm-hmm. That there's not really a way to address that in music. There's no real way to address that. Like, there's a way to address people hating on you or you being the best rapper or you wanting to be whatever, but there probably isn't a way on a song to be like, yo, I was a Nazi for a little while and now that's like not my thing anymore.
Yeah, he says it's the new me.
Right. So
it's not the old me, it's the new me. That's him addressing it again.
But there's a second thing. A second reason that he might not be saying anything
Why?
is that his song making intelligentsia is different now. The Kanye West that we really enjoyed and we really loved, and the guy who made classic, timeless, amazing music, had the help of some amazing songwriters, amazing people that know how to craft records. You know what I'm saying? And he always had the newer ones around. Travis Scott is on this album, so I don't know how much he had to do in terms of like the actual pen work on it or anything like that. But like, you know, from what I know, there are several guys that when Ye used to be recording, that he would fly them out and they would all sit around, talk and write songs and get everything. I don't know if those guys are around now. I don't know if those same guys are involved in the song making process, because there's been a lot of stuff that's happened behind the scenes with some of those relationships.
Yeah.
I don't know if those guys are there anymore. So there is a chance that it's not that he didn't want to say anything, it's just that he couldn't, right? So like, and what I mean is like, some of these records that we really know and we really love, I mean, there are like historic pins on these records. And you can say whatever you want about some of these people and what they've done in their solo careers or whatever, but they know how to put a message in a song. So it might not be that Kanye West is out of things to say. It might be that he's out of people to say it. So, and I'm really not sure, because you can listen to this whole album and it sounds really good. And there are songs with great replayability on there. And he still knows how to evoke emotions out of you through a marriage of melody and music. He still knows how to do that. He knows how to do that better than almost anybody that's ever done it. But if you're looking for anything to go into your brain and incite you or make you think of something differently, or something even really incredibly introspective or even retrospective, right? It's not there. It's not there. It's good stuff though. But if you were waiting for him to say something or give you an explanation or like a look into his world or what has been like, even the torture that he's apparently been through, it's nothing. It's kind of hollowed out in that way.
What about visually?
What, the Bianca Censori thing?
Like the video, the father video that had a lot of people talking. Would you say visually he gave you something to think about?
I think he did. I thought that stuff was good.
I saw the video. I would agree. That's why I'm bringing it up.
And like her directing that is interesting. Her proximity to him. I mean, there's some outright. There's a line in there where he says in the song called King, where he talks about the fact that he couldn't have had his white wife without Martin Luther King. He says that in the record. You know, I mean, there was some stuff like that in old Kanye, but that's like, you know, whatever. It's like nothing really happening that's going on. But like, yeah, visually, some of the stuff definitely was moving. Look, nobody is going to argue that has a shred of objectivity that Kanye West isn't a top flight, not a 1%, a half of a 1% creative. Like a half of a 1%, almost like not even a half of a 1%. I could make an argument that there has never been anyone like Kanye West before in terms of creativity ever, besides like Leonardo da Vinci. Like people that are good at that many different disciplines and can do that many different things, like that his ability to see things and do things that's never really existed before, particularly in hip hop. The only thing that I'll say, obviously Pharrell and guys like that are like in that same vein. The only thing I would say is the only thing that people are actually arguing is not whether or not that's true. They're arguing whether or not it's worth it. Like whether or not that is a truth, but whether or not everything else is worth it. And nothing's going to stop people from having that discussion.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see as things go. Obviously, it had a lot of interest and curiosity. So many people listen to it. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but like the streams are crazy.
Like 50 million or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then he's got his concert here. Is it this weekend?
It's this weekend? April 3rd, like SoFi, sold out.
Yeah, like sold out. People will go. And how much of it is, to the point of the conversation surrounding it, curiosity or just like or support, you know? Like we'll see. We'll see.
Bernard, did you like it before we get to Butch Ware? Did you like Bully?
I like the video. There's been a lot of talk saying he had Michael Jackson in the video. That light-skinned brother right behind him.
Fabio.
Interesting.
Fabio. Yeah.
Fabio. Jade, did you enjoy Bully?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with everything you're saying. I mean, I think the sonics of it, they're great. Lyrics, seems like he's, trying to
So if you guys
to play face or save face in a way that's like generalized in a way. But I mean, I thought it was cool. I had some homies who were in the video, so I was excited for them. But
So Jade is a rapper. If you guys don't know that, Jade raps under the name Big Time Jade is the name of her rap name. BTJ.
No, it's not.
That's what she goes by. If Kanye asked you to write for him, would you write for him?
That's a great question. My boyfriend asked me a lot of questions like this. My initial response, my knee-jerk response is a yes, but I do have a lot of moral complications when it comes to that. So I think my knee-jerk is a yes. My afterthought is, okay, in what capacity?
Jay.
What? Look, like, once again,
you know what? It
I
would
told
be
you guys
so
Kanye
many
coming
things.
back. It's fine. Like, Kanye will be back.
It would be so many things, right? Like, I get it. I get the knee-jerk reaction to say yes. But then it would be like, okay, you write on a song that might be great, you might agree with. He might actually say some things and you might have influenced him to believe it. But what are the other 12 tracks? That's the scary thing.
House of Love. This is the first episode of the House of Love. The first
Once
episode,
a month, because I can't do it again.
Rachel, can I tell you something? Rachel, okay, the woman of this house, you did a fantastic job with the House of Love.
I did. I really did.
Okay, because y'all don't even know. Rach don't fucking give a fuck.
No, that's not true.
Like Rach,
That's not true.
like Rach don't give a
That's
fuck.
not
Rach
true.
don't give a fuck. Okay, she doesn't. But the House of Love.
Once a month.
Once a month. Once a month for the House of Love. Okay, Butch Ware on the other side of this.
So I'll tell this one story just because I tell this story to my team. Mm-hmm. So my father was a locksmith that had a 6th grade education, and he hustled to make ends meet. He stayed strapped at all times. He was a rough man, And my mother, she kidnapped us out of his house to take us to like a battered women's shelter. When I was a kid, she went into hiding. We moved from DC to Minneapolis at that time, and so that was he was dealing with mental health issues and addiction and other stuff, but he was also a beautiful man, brilliant man, loving man, and he had a very unique nature about him, that was raised in Georgia before he came to DC. So when he took me to learn how to swim, it was at Rock Creek Park in Washington D.C. Mm-hmm. And he took me to Rock Creek Park, and he grabbed me by the arm and he threw me in the water and said, "Sink or swim, boy."
Same thing.
Yeah. As the camera's running, we need this then, because if it's the same thing, we got this. This can just be for our own purposes. Can we get this or no?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, cool. So he threw me in the water and he said, "Sink or swim, boy." And so I started to flail around because I didn't know how to swim, right? And I'm kicking my legs, and yelling. And then I started to sink because I don't know how to swim, right? And that's when I realized that he had thrown me in exactly enough water that if I put my heel down on the stream bed and lifted my neck up, I could just breathe. Mm-hmm. He knew how deep the water was. I didn't know how deep the water the water was. Yeah. And he was throwing me. He never explained this, mind you, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm 4 years old at the time. Yeah. But like I've reflected on it over the years. I realized like he was throwing me in exactly enough water that I would experience like the urgency with which you have to move your limbs when your life is at stake. Mm-hmm. And the futility of all of that movement if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I learned to swim within a week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it was, and granted, objectively, that was child abuse. Like I would never do that to my child. And, like there was a lesson in it. And I tell my team all the time, like, listen, like this campaign, I ran for vice president. I know this is gonna look crazy. Mm-hmm. I'm throwing y'all in the water because I know where the bottom is, and like we're either gonna sink or swim, and you're gonna have to learn, through the process because there's no substitute for swimming and learning how to swim.
You know what? So similar situation. I remember looking up and seeing 2 guys smoking cigarettes and like
laughing their asses off.
And then I also remember when it was time to like institute safety.
Yeah.
When it was time, it was time to be like, hey, you're safe. Like, if this gets too much for you, we're here.
We're here. Yeah.
How
he
do
was
you
there.
institute that into your team, knowing that you know what you're getting into by running for governor? They might not know. How do you connect back to them and let them know that you got
I have that conversation with the team, you know, from the beginning. And I also tell them, like, you know, hurt people. I'm not here to reproduce, you know, trauma. Like, that's actually not it. I want us to, like, actually address this. My door is always open. You know, speak to me about any and everything, because ultimately, like, what makes us different in the end is the culture inside the institution. So the culture is an abolitionist culture. It's not built on structures of punishment. It's built on community and accountability. And I believe, like Assata Shakur said, that all revolutionary activity is rooted in profound love. The duopoly runs through hate and through fear. They're always fear-mongering. The other side does this, the other side does that, right? That's how they have to govern. Certainly. We'll beat them because love is stronger than hate. Positive incentives are more powerful than negative incentives. And ultimately, you do not start building a healed, sound culture on Freedom Day. You have to build it through the revolutionary activity itself. You have to instantiate it on a daily basis inside whatever you're building. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of folks fail in, is that they don't understand. They're so busy trying to slay the beast, deconstruct something. Whereas what I learned in West Africa, I lived in Senegal for years, learned to speak the Wolof language fluently. That's where I did my PhD research. And they say the child of Adam never releases what their hand is holding until they're reaching for something better. Right? You'll hold on to a hot coal if it's all you got. So our politics and our culture is one of aspiration. It's one of actually giving people something to hope for, not an enemy to attack, right? Because in the end, the construction of something is infinitely more beautiful and needed, right? Than just a constant railing against what the system does to us. What are we building?
Absolutely.
What are we building?
Is of Dr. Butch Ware. Got to make sure I introduce you.
Yeah, let's get it in.
We have our first California gubernatorial candidate on Higher Learning. You're the first. We've talked to some other.
It's an honor.
We've talked to some other people that might be running for president. And
Maybe a current governor.
Interesting. He was on,
very interesting. I hope we can talk about that, because I find it interesting that he found things interesting.
Yeah, I find it interesting that I don't know what he finds interesting, because it seems like he changes his mind every time somebody asks him a question.
Yeah, Lord.
Butch Ware is running for governor. It is a crowded governor field right now. He is born in Washington, D.C., grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah, south side of Minneapolis,
Now you're a professor at UCSB. What's your discipline there?
So I teach a lot of different courses. I'm trained in African history, African American history, Islamic history. I work basically on the history of, like, Black revolutionary movements, both in continental Africa and the diaspora. So it's the struggle against capitalism, imperialism, white supremacy, literally going back to, like, the 1500s on the African continent into slave rebellions here. And so I just finished my last class, my Black revolutionaries class, and now I'm on sabbatical, so I get to focus on the campaign for the next few months. I teach a hip hop history class because I grew up in the hip hop era. I never really wanted to be anything other than an MC. And so my students in that class, they write their final paper on hip hop in the carceral state. So, like, they read Police State. They have the lyrics, Police State by Dead Prez, I Want to Kill Sam by Ice Cube, right? And they do an analysis of, like, how hip hop has dealt with the development of the carceral state. So I try to keep things culturally relevant. I was called into action running for office, and I speak in public and do those things. But people that know me know that I'm a teacher. Like that when you really find me in my lane and in my pocket, it's when I'm teaching. And I love to teach. So yeah.
I literally was just saying before you came in that I cannot imagine myself going back to school. I cannot do more school. But then I hear what you're teaching and the way you talk, and you're actually making me more interested. Real quick before I ask my first question. What was your MC name?
Beware.
Okay.
Just Butch Ware, and I put it in the in our most recent. So hopefully we'll get to this, but I believe that I'm the first candidate for major office in history to release political ads in the form of diss tracks.
Oh wow!
So I
I've
did.
never heard that before.
I did. They Not Like Us, and then and we just did a Shook Ones remix that's about them trying to knock me off the ballot. And we got one that's about to come off about the billionaires that are behind both Team Blue and Team Red called Mask Off. So I did it over Future's beat Mask Off.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll work the politics and the bars in. You know.
I love that.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise, like we used to say back home.
For our audience who might not be as familiar with you, I mean, you already have told us so much about like who you are, what you do, a little bit of how you grew up, but being a part of the Green Party and what initially motivated you to even want to run for governor of California, can you talk a little bit about that and kind of what hope you plan to bring to the state of California?
Yeah. So nobody was caught more unprepared, like psychologically, for running for office than me. I never considered running for office. Never. I've been a community educator, an organizer, an activist my whole life. I literally organized my first Pan-Africanist revolutionary reading group when I was 19, right? I'm not joking. And I'll tell the long version of the story, you know, like as we get further in, but I want to make sure I answer Rachel's question. So all that's to say is I never really considered electoral politics as the route. Mutual aid plus direct action and community education, that was my lane. In 2024, with the ongoing genocide, people were following my social media account because I was one of the people that was trying to tell what the Black liberation tradition had said about standing 10 toes down for Palestine, about what Malcolm had said in Zionist logic, and how Malcolm said this is a white Jewish population being empowered by white imperialists to move Arabs off their land. Malcolm understood Zionism as a regional variant of white supremacy. And so he acted accordingly, right? So I got a lot of attention on my social media feed at that time. And one of the things that was happening is that those of us that were liberation minded, you know, on the so-called left, we were looking at the Black and Palestinian solidarity and the struggle in that moment. So my Palestinian American colleagues were like, we're supporting Jill Stein in this upcoming election. And they said, would you like to interview her on your social media feed? So I interviewed her. And we had a great conversation. We can come back to that, but I want to get to the question, so I'll try to be the brief version of this. 24 hours after I hosted Jill on my social media platform, she asked if I would consider running as the VP.
Wow.
The next day.
Wow.
And so I had to like reassess all of my, you know, understandings about how we affect radical revolutionary change. And so I went back to Malcolm. I'll tell the reason why Malcolm means so much to me, you know, when we get further down the road. But Malcolm is like my hero, my archetype. I always filter everything through Malcolm for specific reasons in my own biography. So I went back to Malcolm, 1964, the Ballad of the Bullet. And Malcolm said, we're going to knock on every door in Harlem, and we're going to register every Black face behind every door, not as a Democrat, not as a Republican. He said, we're going to say, show us your card. And whoever didn't have the responsibility to register themselves, we are going to have words with them, and we might just move them out of town. He said, it's going to be the ballot or the bullet. And that's when I said, so hold up, Malcolm, my revolutionary hero, was saying electoral politics is mandatory. Then I looked at what the Panthers, Huey P. Newton, in Revolutionary Suicide, he said, we do not claim that we have done what Malcolm would have done, but we say that the spirit of Malcolm was with us, because the Panthers were founded in the aftermath of Malcolm's assassination. Well, Huey P. Newton ran for Congress not once, but twice. Bobby Seale ran for mayor of Oakland in '73. Kwame Ture.
Almost won.
Kwame Ture, formerly Stokely Carmichael, right? So Stokely interacted with Malcolm around the Zionism question. SNCC was one of the first organizations to come out as an anti-Zionist organization. They were blackballed because of it. He becomes Kwame Ture, you know, full-throated in his support, you know, 10 toes down for Palestinian liberation, and a true revolutionary, founded All African People's Revolutionary Party. And what did he say? He said, voting every 4 years is the height of bourgeois hypocrisy, but I would shed my blood for the vote, and I have, because I know that the vote is how I organize my people. So that's when I started to understand that electoral politics, if you understood it as part of a revolutionary cocktail rather than as an end unto itself, the Panthers did it. Mutual aid plus direct action plus electoral power. So then coming out of that 2024 presidential election, cast into a national political conversation, you know, doing the Breakfast Club and all of these other, you know, media things. The thing that people said about the Green Party is, where's the Green Party between elections? And it's a fake argument, because the Green Party literally, and this is something people don't know, in mayor and down, in the last 3 years, Green Party candidates have won 57% of the elections in which they've stood. We beat Team Blue and Red together when there's no money in the equation. Right? We beat both of them sides when there's no money in the equation. But what I was gonna say is like y'all say, where's the Green Party between elections? What y'all gonna say now? When I'm running for governor in the state of California and building a political organization, we have been from San Diego to Humboldt, into the Central Valley, on the Central Coast, Inland Empire. We have thousands of volunteers up and down this state. We've built a political infrastructure that the Green Party, to be fair, never built, because it was a party that was dominated by aging white environmentalists that didn't have this Black liberation vision. Now, they had a reparations platform, which is why I was rocking with Joe to begin with. She was like, they act like reparations isn't calculable. It's been calculated many times. It's $14 trillion. That's
$14 trillion.
That's what she said. And she said, I'm in favor of cash payments.
Right.
And I was like, okay, we might have something to talk about then. Like, you know, so all of that is to say is that I'm doing it to try to basically bring into political existence that revolutionary vision, and to give Black folks and all folks a place where our revolutionary aspirations can get their political expression.
You say that your agenda out, and there's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I want to talk.
How much time do we have?
We have as much time.
Well,
as
let's go in.
I want to talk about sort of your vision of Black people here in solidarity with the dignity of the global South.
Yep.
With brown people who might be targeted by ICE. That's
100%.
a question that's been happening, that's been being asked by Black communities about whether or not issues in Palestine or issues that deal with ICE targeting brown members of the community, some of which were supporters of Donald Trump, if that's our fight. Before I get to your exact platform, what do you say to people who are skeptical about whether or not they should care about Palestine and whether or not they should care about Latino people, Mexican people here?
Well, just ask what our revolutionary ancestors said on this, right? Malcolm was 10 toes down for Palestinian liberation and for the Latino community, spoke vocally on it. The Panthers, Huey P. Newton, and then especially Fred Hampton, the Panthers were instrumental in the foundation of not only the Brown Berets, predominantly Chicano organization, but also the Young Lords, and on top of that, the Young Patriots, a white Appalachian group. So rooted 10 toes down in Blackness, we cast a vision of collective liberation because the struggle is against white supremacy. So what Malcolm was calling our attention to is that white supremacy cannot be defeated just by a single ethnic group's response. Everybody that's targeted by white supremacy has to be standing shoulder to shoulder to fight back. So that's why Malcolm said it, Stokely Carmichael said it. It wasn't, Assata Shakur was 10 toes down for Palestinian liberation. James Baldwin in 1979, Open Letter to the Born Again, said, the state of Israel was not created for the salvation of the Jews. The state of Israel was created for the salvation of Western interests. So the anti-imperialist struggle in which Black liberation is embedded teaches us that we have to light the road for collective liberation. Now, don't get me wrong. Black folks don't owe anybody anything with respect to protests. We have been on the front lines forever. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our revolutionary ancestors that taught us that there is no getting free as Black people without smashing the system that enslaves us. And the system that enslaves us is also the one that is diminishing immigrant communities. When I came here, I married a Mexican-American woman. Her family, my mother-in-law couldn't see her brother for 23 years because they were separated by the border, because both of my wife's parents came undocumented. And I'm sitting here thinking they wept for an hour when they saw each other, separated by that man's border in a place that all used to be Mexico, right? Before the Alamo, before Whitey took it, right? So I was looking at this border that was breaking up families the same way that our families were broken up, and for the same reason, to have a fragile, easily controllable source of labor, because there's a reason why the both Team Blue and Team Red, the Democrats and the Republicans, remember Kamala said she was gonna be harder on the border than Trump. She said that. And the reason why they've had this bipartisan agreement on racist immigration policies and brutalizing immigrant communities is because it serves the capitalist class that wants farm workers that have no legal status or standing so that they can't organize. Because you know what you never see in them ICE raids? You never see white boys in business suits being taken out for hiring 200 undocumented laborers. Now, do you?
Yeah, right. President Trump actually spoke about the fact that some of that he needs to happen. He needs that. Like he talked about what. Interesting that you'd say that about one of the major criticisms on the Joe Biden administration and Kamala Harris was that they were too soft on the border. So maybe her saying that she was going to do that, but her record said that they weren't. And because the reason why I asked you that is a lot of people, when they hear you tell that beautiful story about your wife, they're going to say, well, a lot of what's happening right now with ICE and some of the draconian measures at the border wouldn't have happened if Kamala Harris would have been president.
Well, okay, so
what do you say to people that say that?
Except that for all of the theatrics and violence of the ICE escalations under Trump, Trump is still chasing Obama's deportation records. He's still behind. He can't catch up with the deporter in chief. It's just that the optics of the way that immigration policy is executed by the Democrats and the Republicans differs. The Republicans have to dramatize it and make it public. The violence is the point because the goal is to humiliate Black and brown people. And let's not forget that it's a lot of Black folks that are being targeted by this. African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, right? So their point is they throw red meat to their base when they make it public, when they make it violent. The Democrats want to do it behind closed doors because they're serving the same corporate interests, but it is not in their public relations interest to be seen doing it in public. So people don't even know that Obama actually deported more people in his first year than Trump did in this Trump 2.0. So, and this goes back to Malcolm, last point on this. Malcolm said, the liberal is a fox. It bares its teeth. You think it's smiling at you, but you're on the menu. The conservative is a wolf. When it bares its teeth, it's into a vicious snarl that leaves the Negro with no illusion as to where he stands. Malcolm understood our community as being caught between two predators that differ only in the way that they hunt. One hunts by cunning, by guile, pretending to be your friend. You have one of them here, Gavin, right? Yeah. Slick Willie 2.0, Bill Clinton version 2. And the other hunts by sheer force, right? And Malcolm argued that the concealed enemy is more dangerous to you than the open enemy. He said in '64, the white liberal is the most dangerous thing in the Western Hemisphere. And in order for that bar to hit, you have to ask what white conservatives were doing in '64. Right.
So hold on. I'm gonna let Rachel cook for a second.
Please.
I'm gonna let Rachel cook. Like, I hear the audience saying, "Van, let Rachel cook." I also hear the audience saying something else. They're going to say, people are listening. They're going to compare the deportations that Barack Obama did with the current situation.
That's what I was gonna say.
In interior deportations, Barack Obama actually, it seems to a lot of people, he wanted to appear tough on the border. So he counted everyone turned away at the border as a deportation. That accounted for a large number of the 3 million figure that ended up being a part of his administration. And then also there was a point where we just I'm not holding on to the Democrats.
We're good.
There was a point where not only did that stop and deportations went drastically down, but then there was DACA. There were other things that the Obama administration did to try to address their overreach early on in some of their immigration stances. What do you say to people that are going to hear that? And by the way, look, even now from the right, you're hearing people saying that Obama was fake tough on the border.
Right. So we're just back in the realm of rhetoric, and that the way that the fox wants to sell its product and the way that the wolf wants to sell their product, they are spinning Obama's deportation record to make it look like he was actually there for Black and brown people. And that is the part that is so insidious. That was also the part that drove me wild in the Kamala campaign, is that ultimately the Black imperialist is more dangerous to our community even than that white liberal that Malcolm cited. Because when it comes in blackface, we're more likely to accept these arguments. We're more likely to forget that Obama was bombing Yemeni kids, knowing full well that there was a 33% casualty rate in every single drone strike that the U.S. was conducting in Yemen. And that had to be approved from the White House. Generals wouldn't even sign off on that. Right? And here we are caping and co-signing for people that are doing the work of white supremacist imperialism abroad and at home because it comes in a package that looks like us. So what I said in 2024 still obtains today. I am personally offended at the weaponization of Blackness in service of white supremacy. That part is the part that I cannot stomach. And those were the ones that, Malcolm and others, particularly target. Fred Hampton said, there's a man, we call him a capitalist. He comes in all colors, black, red, white, yellow, and he's always our enemy. So these people are doing the work of capitalism and empire, and we give them a pass because they look like us, but they not like us, and not all skin folk are kinfolk.
Really quick follow-up. Are you saying too, when you talk about like the Republicans being more overt and the Democrats being more covert in what they do, but you're generally saying that they do the same thing? In particular, we're talking about the border. Are you saying that the Obama administration, you called him deporter-in-chief, was equally as violent? I just want to clarify.
It depends on how you define violence, right? I will very clearly mark, masked men pulling up in vans and kidnapping people as an escalation in violence, no question. But systemic violence that is concealed and is hidden is every bit as harmful to our communities. And what Malcolm was saying is even more so. So let's give it a more simple example that affects our generation specifically, right? Bill Clinton, again, the archetype being Gavin, Gavin Newsom is now Bill Clinton 2.0. They love a liar. They love a smooth criminal. They do, right? So Bill Clinton and that same Joe Biden were the principal architects of the crime bill, 1994 crime bill, which locked our people up on unprecedented scale. My cousin doing time forever. My dad in and out of the system for no goddamn reason except that the prison industrial complex needed to grow and private prison industry was escalating. But when do they get held accountable? We act as though the carceral state is some kind of fascist thing. We act as though the police state is a recent phenomenon. Democrats did that to us. It wasn't Republicans that did that to us. So my fundamental issue is that, no, I don't think that they're the same, but that systemic violence. So you saying all the brothers that are locked up right now on a third-time weed offense, while corporations are literally making big money selling weed in California, that's not violent to have your liberty and freedom taken away from you? Systemic violence and concealed violence is every bit as real. And the last part I'll say on this, I teach African history, African-American history. Julius Nyerere, I think, said it best, great Tanzanian revolutionary. He said, of course, the United States is a single party state, but with classic American extravagance, they have two of them. Right? Because if you were to make a Venn diagram of the donor base of the Republicans and the Democrats, that's one circle, family. Like you're literally looking, it's Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, the weapons manufacturers, the prison, the prison industrial complex, and APAC, right in the middle,
Pharma. So
pharma, exactly.
Pharma for sure.
They play on both sides, and they want us focus on the culture war between blue and red because none of that affects their money. None of that affects their money. Go ahead.
No. So you're running for governor. You're currently not on the ballot. You're fighting to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
Can you talk about where things broke down and why you believe they want to keep you off the ballot?
So I'll start with the last part. The why is pretty straightforward and easy. The latest polling shows that the three Democrat candidates that are most serious in the race are polling at 10% each. So that's Eric Swalwell, Katie Porter, and Tom Steyer. And we don't have corporate money. We can't run cherry pick polls, but they've done polling for us. I'm polling at 5% in the highest of those polls, despite the fact that Tom Steyer has spent $400 million running for president in 2024 and now in his gubernatorial campaign. We're only funded by the people. We don't take any corporate donations. He's had to spend a couple $100 million to just get 5 points ahead of me.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. And because he can pay for all of that stuff and he still can't make headway. He can't break away from me because we have the responsible people. So they're terrified because they saw what happened with Mamdani in New York. Mamdani at the same point in his electoral cycle was polling at about 2 or 3%. He had to get to 50% in a Democratic primary. I'm at 5% and have to get to 15 or 20% in an open primary in order to finish in the top 2. So they're deathly afraid because they can feel us coming. So that's why they did what they did. Now on to your question of what they actually did. I'll give the short version of this. The short version is that everybody is required to file unredacted and redacted copies of 5 years of tax returns. So we did that just like everybody else. We dotted every I, crossed every T. That was you had to send that in by March 6th. We sent ours in on March 5th. On March 7th, we get an email from the Secretary of State's office that says, no, not redacted, return, not submitted. And we were like, huh? Because that's not English. It was ungrammatical. So we couldn't understand what they were saying we hadn't sent. They said there are deficiencies in your dossier that need to be corrected. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the ballot if they're not corrected by March 16th at 5 p.m. So we're looking at this, trying to read this email, like, what does this mean? Then they send an email on March 10th to correct it. Now they say unredacted returns were not submitted, but they say it only for 2022 and 2023. The first email said 21 through 24. So now we have to ask, so do you need new copies of just 2 years or do you need all 4 years?
Right.
They wait another 2 days before they answer back. Do you see? They're starting to run the clock. They're sending me, chasing my tail, because they won't tell me what it is that I'm supposed to submit or when I'm supposed to submit it. Back and forth like this until Friday the 13th at 10 a.m. We finally get instructions. I'm literally sitting with my CPA because I filed these taxes years ago. We redacted them, sent them in. Long story short, within 2 hours, we send them back. Send them overnight mail. They get them Monday morning at 9:17 a.m. They have them in their possession. 4:50 p.m. They send me an email and they say that your phone number was not redacted from one of these forms and that your business name was over redacted from one other form. So on 2 pieces of paper in a 130-page filing of redacted and unredacted tax returns, they said you have 2 redaction errors. We're going to disqualify you from the ballot if you don't come into our office with hard copy in the next 10 minutes to rectify this.
10 minutes.
4:50 p.m. They send the email. I have to be there by 5. I live in Santa Barbara, right? So it's they know that we can't comply with it, and then it gets worse. So that's what we go to court on. We go to court on this because, and I'll explain more of the context later. You can ask me follow-up questions. We go to court. We file the lawsuit because they are literally just going to try to knock us out on this technicality that they created, right? That they created. It got even worse in court because our lawyers, look, I was ready for this. We had a war chest. Even though we only take small donations, no corporate donations, a brother had a war chest set to the side because it takes a war chest to fight a war. So we were ready, and we had lawyers file suit within 48 hours because we had to in order to be able to appear on the voter's guide. They gave us basically 2 days. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to get redress in timely fashion to go on the voter's guide, which is what they were doing. Long story short, my lawyer goes through every single document that they submitted. The opposition, the Secretary of State submitted into evidence. 2 things. They falsified the email thread. They went back to that March 7th email and tried to make it look as though they had given us grammatical instructions that we could follow from the beginning. Our lawyer printed out 2 emails with identical date and timestamps. The first, the original one with the orders that you couldn't follow, which cost us 3 days for no reason. The second, they went in and fixed it to make it look like we had orders that we could comply with the whole time. The judge, unmoved, couldn't care less. And here it gets even worse, Rachel. Our lawyer went through everything that the opposition put into evidence. So they submitted this into evidence themselves. They submitted these falsified emails, and then it got even worse because they submitted all of the returns that we had submitted, both in the first mailing that we sent in on March 5th and in the second mailing that we sent in overnight March 13th. And they pointed out that the Secretary of State had the correct forms in their possession the whole time. The 2 redaction errors that they claimed, which is literally just my phone number not being blacked out. That's my phone number. If it gets out in the public, what does that do? The purpose of the law is so that the financial information of the candidates is openly available. All that was openly available, and it complied. It was redacted and unredacted as it was expected to be. So what they showed is that quite literally, and this happened in court, that they had in the original filing those 2 pieces of paper with those redactions correct. All they literally had to do was just take the piece of paper and put it into the file, case closed, done. And the judge asked, is this correct? Did you have these in your possession the whole time? Asked this to the Secretary of State. And they look flummoxed, right? And they're like, yeah, we did. And they said, it's not our job to collate. So the judge then said, this is true? Yes, it's true. He spoke to our lawyer, and our lawyer said, he asked our lawyer, so they had this in possession, complete set of both tax returns, redacted and unredacted, in what you had submitted to the Secretary of State. Is that correct? Yes. And he said, okay, so I'm ready to read my ruling. And then he read a pre-written ruling.
He had made the decision before he got the evidence.
He had made the decision before he got the evidence, and the pre-written ruling said we had not sent it in time. It didn't matter that they send us like a dog chasing our tail. It didn't matter that they gave us 10 minutes to comply. All of that is thrown out. We can throw you out on any technicality. If you miss a single field, if you don't dot an I on a document, we can throw you out because you didn't submit. But the court had just accepted in public, and the defense, the Secretary of State's lawyer, had said they had it. And the judge had confirmed that they had it. So he read a ruling that went directly against what the oral arguments had indicated, because he was sent there to do a job the same way that that clerk who was sent to go through my tax returns with a fine-tooth comb to try to find something to throw me off the ballot. And how do we know? Because you can go on the Secretary of State's website right now for the candidates that are in the race and go to their tax returns. A bunch of them have unredacted fields. There are literally dozens of quote-unquote redaction errors in candidates that are in the field, but none of them are a threat to the Democrat control over the state of California.
I was going to ask that. So they're special exceptions that they're making for you that they didn't make for other candidates, you're saying?
They always do this.
Special rules,
they always do this for the Green Party because they know what I just told you. They know that when people are exposed to the message, they lose. They know that the Green Party has won 57% of those local elections over the last 3 years. They know that a Green Party candidate named Matt Gonzalez, who had never been on the Breakfast Club and would never get on Higher Learning, got 47% of the vote against Gavin Newsom for mayor of San Francisco, and he was being outspent 30-1. We almost ended Lil Gavin before Gavin even got started. They know, and what they know especially is that it's a jungle primary, top 2 primary. They know that if I finish in the top 2 in that primary, they're dead, because they cannot hold up against me on a debate stage from June to November where they can't hide me from the public.
That's what I want to get into because
Please do.
I'm registered as an independent, but like the more I read about like what obviously preparing for this interview about where you're coming from and the ideology of the party, you are, and I'm sure like a lot of people who feel politically homeless, that your message is very attractive to that, to the independent, to the people who might be frustrated with the 2-party system, who are looking for something different. And on a national level, we can get into this conversation. It might feel a little bit more risky when you look at the greater stakes, but on more of a regional or a local level, it's like, okay, like maybe we can make this happen. Can you talk more and even go deeper about that specific threat to the Democratic establishment and why they are so fearful? Because it's becoming more of a movement.
Rachel, like, this is such an...
I was very blue.
Right.
Now I'm moving.
And so many, and especially so many of our folk have, but also like other folk too, right? So, and here's the reason why, is that disaffection with that duopoly, with that 2-party system that's funded by the same billionaires and corporations is at an all-time high. So 63% of registered voters say in polling that those 2 parties do such a, quote, poor job that we need an independent third party. That number is 53% when you're asking registered Democrats. That number is 48% when you're asking registered Republicans. The disaffection with the duopoly is so severe that right now 48% of Americans identify politically as independent, only 25% with Team Blue genocide, only 25% with Team Red fascism. So all of those homeless people, and we'll talk about my policy towards homelessness because my dad was homeless. I faced homelessness as a child. I'm not trying to turn homelessness into a cash cow like Gavin Newsom has. I'm actually trying to end it. And that policy on housing affordability, universal health care, and an actual solution to the homelessness crisis, that is appealing to people who are politically homeless. It is attractive to people from all across the ideological spectrum. It's not just a left issue. It's not a centrist issue. It's not a right issue. And it's also attractive to people who don't want Zionists in office, right? You know, y'all had the moment here where y'all caught Gavin, you know, just flat-footed because he found it so interesting that he was being asked about AIPAC. And real quick, that was hilarious to me because it was like, AIPAC, Is that girl that stay down the street? APAC. I don't even know. Is that even her name?
That's not. Nah.
Michelle Leslie Brown. They stayed out there.
Nah, I don't know. I ain't never seen that. What you talking about?
Right. APAC. Interesting. I found it interesting that we even asked me about her. I ain't thought about her in years, and I definitely do not have her number saved under a different name on my phone.
Pizza Hut.
Right. So all of that is just to say that people want across the ideological spectrum. They want people that won't take a penny from AIPAC. That goes for right-leaning people, centrists across the board. And they know that that Israel first, California last attitude is going to get their asses beat in this election. But they're all owned by those corporations, by that lobby, and who funds you runs you. So they can't change their position. They got to try to knock me out of the race because they know I'm going to beat the brakes off of them because the disaffection with the overall direction of both Team Blue genocide and Team Red fascism is so total. So all of those people that are looking for home, they find in this party, Green Party been standing on reparations since 2006, Palestinian liberation since 2006, LGBTQ plus rights, core of the platform, environmental justice and sanity. We wrote the Green New Deal. The Democrats stole it, watered it down, didn't implement it. All of the things that people want, the Green Party has already been doing. But in fairness, as I've said, it was a party that was dominated by aging white environmentalists. It didn't have enough of our people in it. And I said, listen, when Jill asked me would I consider running, I said, I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to talk to my spiritual mentors in West Africa. I'm practicing Muslim. I studied with Islamic teachers while I was doing my PhD research and before. I'm going to talk it over with my family. I'm going to talk it over with my family back in Georgia, back in DC, my wife here. And I said, and while I'm doing that, y'all better run tape on me because you're getting a whole Black Muslim revolutionary at the core, at the top of your party, and that's going to have implications for the direction of this party in the future. And they said, we know, that's why we're asking. So they're essentially handing the keys to us to take this forward. And man, they never should have let a nigga like me. They never should have let that happen because I told him, I said, look, if I'm the face of Jill Stein's 75 years old. Yeah. She's not, running again for major office. And by the way, she's a huge supporter of my campaign, right? She does fundraising calls. Nina Turner, Democrat, comes to weekly meetings for my campaign. She's like an important supporter of my campaign. We brought together people from across the board. But all of that is just to say that with me, especially in this campaign in California, having a concrete political outcome that's achievable right now, man, we making this the red, black, and green party, right? like this is the chance for those Black liberation aspirations that Malcolm and Assata and Toni Morrison and others, James Baldwin, that they taught to us. It's actually time to get those into political application. We can do it now. And that's why they want me off the ballot, because they know they can lose right now. And last thing on this, they like to say California is the fourth largest economy. The Democrats, you'll hear them repeat that over and over again. Certainly. Right? Technically, it's actually the third. If the United States was split into 50 independent republics, so they count the U.S. in front of California. But if it was 50 independent states, the list is China, Germany, California. Those are the three largest economies on the planet. And the economy of California is over 4 trillion GDP. That's almost twice. It's actually slightly more than twice what Texas is. And Texas is the second highest. Let's go back to immigration real quick. Both of them used to be Mexico. Right. So the economic basis that has all of this migrant labor, a separate question. But all that's just to say, they know that losing control over the third largest economy on the planet to an actual anti-imperialist, to an actual anti-capitalist, to somebody who wants to bring universal single-payer health care, to get the healthcare companies, #free Luigi, out of our politics, that wants to provide housing first, which means housing first is just, it's like when you go to a meal with your family, nobody gets seconds until everybody eats, right? It's the same as that for housing. Blackstone and BlackRock can't have hundreds of vacant properties when there's homeless people in the street. So we can't have 14 vacant properties for every one homeless person in the city of San Francisco. So I'm going to tax the shit out of Blackstone and BlackRock till they can't wait to sell those properties back to the state. And we operate those as social housing the way that they do in Vienna, Austria, where the average renter pays 25% of their monthly income in rent. How much are y'all paying on your housing costs here in the state of California? Because people are paying 70, 80%, sometimes 100% of their check. They don't want us to fix that. right? They are deathly afraid of losing control, because the thing is that we win this election, and it's not even the whole election, just the primary. The primary ends them. If I finish in the top 2, the duopoly never recovers, and they know it. So they're coming after me.
Forward, it's completely changed.
Completely changed environment. Why? To return to Rachel's question just briefly, we saw a glimpse of what this looks like in the UK recently. So the UK, in a district called Gorton and Denton, Hannah Spencer, a plumber, a white plumber in a district with 1/3 Muslims in it, wins one by-election. A by-election is essentially the equivalent of a congressional special election. So it's an election for a Congress seat. They won one election, got one seat, their whole seat, the Green Party's whole seat, and the Green Party surpassed the Labour Party in national public opinion polling that week. They passed the Democrats of England, and they know what would happen if we do this in California. They know that is the end of the duopoly as currently constituted.
So the platform.
Yes.
You talked about the vacancy tax,
Yeah.
which I love. Go a little bit deeper,
please,
before we move on to a couple of other issues that you've honed in on.
Absolutely.
Tell people about the vacancy tax.
Yeah, so the short version is just that we want to. So to zoom out really quickly, there are 186 billionaires in the state of California and 187,000 homeless people sleep on the streets every night. And that can't happen. Third largest economy, highest rates of wealth inequality of any state. So we have the most wealth inequality. And if that wasn't enough, we also are tied with Louisiana for the highest poverty rates.
Oh man, my home state. Keep it real. We keep it real.
Both LA's, both LA's representing.
Yeah, we're still struggling in education. Fucking Mississippi has figured it out. Like I, you know what I mean.
Y'all are worse than Mississippi now?
Oh, the Mississippi miracle. Something's happening. In Mississippi.
But like make it make sense, y'all, because like there's 9 families in Silicon Valley that control $683 billion worth of personal wealth. And while Gavin Newsom is out clearing homeless encampments, like literally taking stuff from the poorest people in the society, I'm out doing food distribution in San Jose within a few miles of those $683 billion. And we got people, trans people, being subjected to sexual assault, sleeping in their vehicles and not knowing where they're going to get their next meal. It can't continue like this. So the platform, the vacancy tax is just a part of the overall platform. But the vacancy tax is critical. I'm going to tax them at 95% on those vacant properties, especially if it's 20 or more vacant properties. They are going to sell those back to us for pennies on the dollar, and we're going to operate those at cost for social housing, not public housing. Not the projects that I grew up in DC. We're not doing that. Those are concrete cages for poor people. I know those well. This is mixed income social housing, the same way that they do it in Europe. Somebody pointed out in response to this policy, they're like, Singapore is like one of the most capitalist places on the planet. And even they have social housing available. There's no reason why we can't afford it. We can absolutely do it. The problem is that the Democrat establishment in the state is beholden to those real estate developer interests and those private equity interests. And if all you have is a hammer, then every problem look like a nail. Every one of their solutions is going to be something that first serves their corporate masters and only secondarily might actually resolve the issue.
So the vacancy tax is one thing.
Yep.
I know that there are a couple of pilot programs up and down the state that seek to identify people before they are homeless.
Yep.
Los Angeles is actually, LA County is using AI to identify people, before they're homeless and institute payments to them that stop them from becoming homeless. And up and down the state, not everybody's using AI to do it, but up and down the state, it's really bore a lot of fruit in keeping people off of the streets. What are some other things that you would do to attack that problem? The vacancy tax is one of them. But what else do you have on?
So if you go to my website, the first 3 things at the top of the platform are healthcare, housing, and human rights. So the healthcare and housing pieces are actually the ones that resolve the fundamental contributors to homelessness. So universal single payer healthcare that is comprehensive of mental health treatment and addiction treatment. Do you see?
I absolutely
because I know. So I'm just going to speak candidly about this. My father was a locksmith with a 6th grade education, and he hustled to make ends meet, and he stayed strapped all the time. And I mean, God rest his soul, but everybody in our family knew that him and my Uncle Willie had bodies on them pistols, right? The thing is that my dad was fighting inner demons throughout his life and drank them away at the exact same time that Ronald Reagan and his trickle-down economics, and we're going to come back to neoliberalism, that literally is just Reagan's trickle-down economics. When Reagan pulled the safety net, and again, I don't know if my dad actually hurt anybody, but he had demons that he was wrestling with.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of people do.
No, of course.
The safety net gets pulled out. No more treatment facilities. None of that is there. And so my father spent the better part of 20, 30 years on and off the streets. It wasn't just that I was living in battered women's shelter as a kid because my father was violent towards my mother. It wasn't just that I was sleeping in my dad's locksmith van sometimes when he was there. Like, I faced homelessness. I'm not resolving the issue as though homeless people are not human. I know better. Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to treat this like a public nuisance. I'm treating it like a public policy crisis. So I want the mental health treatment. I want the addiction treatment. And I want to take care of the housing costs because that's the predominant factor that's driving it. We know that every time there's $100 median increase in the average rent, homelessness rates raise by 9%. So you got to get the rent down because those are the two principal contributing factors. You take out the two pieces that are driving the problem, and now you can address the problem itself more directly. Gavin Newsom has spent $25 billion of our money as California taxpayers in the last 5 years on homelessness alleviation programs. And the average number of people sleeping on the streets went from 120,000 per night average at the beginning to 187,000 average per night now. Where did the money go?
Yeah.
The money went into the poverty industrial complex. That's where NGOs write for themselves. The COO, Chief Operating Officer, writes for themselves a $400,000 a year salary to operate a homelessness facility or a poverty alleviation program. Right. It's just handouts from our tax dollars to private citizens. They just get fed out of Gavin's public trough, or it goes to developers. So if you ask Democrats about how they're going to solve the housing affordability, they're like, we need to build more housing, build more housing. We have 14 vacant units for every homeless person. The problem is not more housing. And even in the places where you would want to do some state construction, you're going to need some more.
Yeah.
But the point is that that's not what they're doing. They want to give handouts to their developer buddies. And so the way that it looks is that they'll have a program. So they'll build 100 units. 10 of them will be affordable housing. And those 10 that are affordable housing will become market rate in 10 years. Mm-hmm. We pay for that as the taxpayers, and a developer just takes all of that money. And that's the corruption that is at the heart of the Newsom administration. It wasn't just corruption in that courtroom, right? It's even
the vacancy tax that you're talking about on some of these vacant units. Some of these vacant units aren't necessarily built for single-family housing or multifamily housing.
True.
Some of them are commercial units.
Correct.
So there would have to be housing built even in those situations because you'd have to take those structures and turn them into places where people can live.
For the record, I'm actually not talking about commercial vacancies. I'm only residential vacancies. We have many times more open units than we have.
So a commercial vacancy would not pay any type of vacancy tax.
Commercial vacancies are not included in that policy.
Okay.
Yeah, commercial vacancies are a separate question. Commercial vacancies is the reason why Gavin Newsom administration is trying to force remote telework workers back into offices because the businesses in downtown districts are complaining about vacancy rates. They're losing money because they had already banked a bunch of profits in their own heads, right? And now that they don't have laborers, because we learned during quarantine lockdown that you could have less of an impact on the environment because you're not commuting. Like, I live in Santa Barbara. I don't know how y'all do it down here in LA, bro. Like the traffic,
yeah, you gotta figure it out, bro.
But you know what I'm saying?
I just boom, back streets, up, around.
It's everywhere.
Not in Santa Barbara. I can get anywhere in 15 minutes. That I need to be. But all that's just to say that we learned that the environment. Look, we are the Green Party after all. We don't want people sitting in vehicles.
Right.
The emissions. So like the environmental effects, but also the childcare effects. Like my mom was a single mom. My mom was 15 years old, pregnant with me. Told by her high school guidance counselor to abort the child because she was pregnant by a black man.
Tough.
1973, Washington, D.C. Yeah, 73. I'm 52 years old.
Wow.
Even light-skinned black don't crack.
No, I'm asking. But
But he's about to go ahead.
your mom printed by a black man.
Yeah.
Your mom, white lady.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the biracials
It's
here.
not we.
I'm not
This
a
is
biracial. There was no such thing when I was a kid. I was just light-skinned.
Oh, this is music to us. Go ahead.
I
keep
was just
talking.
light-skinned because-
So you identify as black.
Black my whole life. I've never been biracial for a day. I've
We'll
never
talk about Amber Rose later on in the
I've
podcast,
never-
or maybe
I
earlier,
literally
depending on where this goes.
because
People like that, by the way.
how could I identify that way? I remember when they made up the term. That was like in the 1990s, 2000. I had been a human for 20 plus years by that time. I had been black
Butch,
that whole
Butch,
time.
you need to call a meeting amongst your people and get them right.
The light-skinned
BBI.
I'm calling a caucus for the light-skinned
light-skinned
delegation. The light-skinned
You guys need to have a
delegation. We need to
conversation,
get organized because I've never.
We need to get organized.
I've never been biracial my whole life. And you got to understand, I mean, that wasn't even an option for me. I grew up in Washington, D.C., in Northeast D.C. My father, God rest his soul, had a locksmith shop on 13th and H, back before it gentrified. I could go weeks without seeing a white person that wasn't my mom. Literally weeks. I had friends that had never had a 5-minute conversation before they went to college with a white person. Like DC was chocolate city at that time. And so that just wasn't part of my lived reality being biracial. Like literally I go to Horace and Dickey's, to get a fish sandwich. And the first thing they say, light skin, what you have? Right?
That's funny.
And I'm like, and I'll say, I'll take the fish sandwich, extra mumbo sauce.
Yeah.
Right?
Extra mayo too.
Where are you from, bro?
I'm just-
It's
he's-
mumbo.
he's-
I just caught it.
He's tapping into
I
white.
just heard it. Apologies,
You've unlocked a whole nother thing with that.
we can have this whole conversation, but
No, we can listen, because the audience, we gotta stay on the
we gotta
governor
stay on
shit.
flag, but I want to get
Right,
one.
right.
No, but I hope we can circle back to the culture because the event that we're doing, the Unity Uprising, it's a crucial part of it. I just want to finish that one part
Certainly.
to close the circle. So that the $25 billion, instead of using it as handouts to developers and to the poverty industrial complex, which is the mirror of the prison industrial complex, how about universal basic income?
UBI?
Yeah, for
Michael Tubbs, Stockton.
Right. So exactly, Stockton, which is, by the way, where my wife is from. And I learned, I was like, oh, so Stockton is just Compton for Mexicans. I was like, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, what? It's fun. Look. Michael Tubbs, love him. Mike is coming on the podcast pretty soon.
He's coming on soon,
UBI, situations like that. Like, these things are programs that have been, or policies that have been proven to work.
They work. And the thing is, so just as a math experiment, my campaign manager, Sakib Usman, who you might hear coughing or laughing in the back of the interview at various points. So we ran the numbers, like literally every one of those 187,000 people that sleep on the streets for average per year, you could give each one $25,000 per year for the entirety of that period, and it would come back cheaper than the $25 billion of our money that Gavin already spent for his developer buddies and for the NGOs. And why is this so offensive? Because I've tasted what the streets feel like. Like me and my brother, I was about to go overseas for an extended period as part of my work teaching. And we hadn't heard from my dad in a while. So me and my brother flew out to DC and went looking for my dad on the street. And we heard word that he was clean. He was sober. He got hit by a car, dragged for half a city block because he was so high. And while he was in the medical recovery, everything that he was on got out of his system. My dad was clean for the first time in 30 years. Me and my brother went and each of us put in a third of the rent. He got his benefits to put the other third of the rent, and we got my dad off the street. That's what I'm trying to do, man. I'm trying to take care of people because my dad was still a human being and he was still somebody that needed care and not a cage, right? So all of that is just to say, what if we actually put the resources in the hands of the people? Why is it so offensive? Because we're paying those taxes to take care of the most impoverished and vulnerable in our society. And then rich people are coming and taking it and putting it in their bank accounts. Nigga, fuck that forever. Forever. And fuck every last one that ever did that. Because our people are in need and hurting. And y'all are taking the cream off the top. Cash rules.
Is that one of the videos you have too?
That one's coming. We ain't done that. We ain't done that yet. Well, I'll get some of the bars in later. Sorry, I didn't mean to get all animated.
No, we are an animated podcast for sure. You have found your home here. I don't understand how someone can't listen to the way you talk and how passionate you are and what you're motivated by, whether it's how you grew up, what you've seen, what is happening in this very state. And I want to talk about, because sometimes you're a leftist and people love to.
We could talk about that too, but go ahead.
People will. Am I wrong in saying that you are?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Because
not at all.
I feel like
I look at it differently. You're not wrong at all.
And I want you to talk about that, because I feel like in general, when people don't know, you've got leftist versus liberal ideology. We've talked about that. People look at it at leftist and they say radicalized, or they look at it and at the worst say domestic terrorism in some ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Trump on that. Yeah.
I want you to talk about what you were going to say, but then also the question of the misconception of it, because again, circling back to the top of what I was saying, you hear what you believe and why, and it so contradicts the myth that people have or the misconception that they have about being a leftist.
Yeah. So this is such a deep and important question, and I want to go like slowly, because I feel like as an educator, a professor first and foremost, because I have to do this work with my students too. So I want to unpack these terms. So the first thing is that left versus right was literally a distinction that was made at the end of the 18th century, in the midst of the French Revolution. Like, it was literally people on opposite sides of a cafe and where they sit. So the only reason why I push back on the definition as leftist is that I actually don't take any of my personal identity categories from European traditions at all. I don't. Now, in the European framing of things, absolutely, I'm a leftist. And both of those parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, are right-wing parties in our current Constitution, to return to Reagan and that trickle-down economics and pulling out the safety net. So that's what's now referred to as neoliberal economics. And people think that has something to do with liberal versus conservative, but it's not about social identity. It's about an economic position. And the economic position of neoliberal economics is that you take away the state regulation and you put everything in the hands of private industry, right? And so the Democrats will talk about this as public-private partnership. So that is a far right position because you are handing over power to corporations. When Mussolini, who would know, defined fascism, he said it is the merger of state and corporate power. From the standpoint of a traditional left versus right divide, both Democrats and Republicans are on the right wing, and they are both fascist, because neoliberal economics is fascism. But they have us thinking, yeah, go ahead.
Say more. Say how.
Okay. So it's the merger of state and corporate power. It's what I mean when I say who funds you, runs you, is that they are in the pockets of the corporations, and the corporations actually use the state in order to make decisions. They use the state to execute their policies, so that Tesla pays a 0.75% effective tax rate. How much they take from your check, Rachel?
I don't know.
They take a lot more than that. They take 35, 40% right off the top. So the state does the work of securing and preserving corporate interests. That's a far right position. A leftist position is that the state's job is to be in public service, and public resources, public funds are for public goods. So for example, I don't think that PG&E should be able to start 480 wildfires in a year, be held accountable for those wildfires, get a $9 billion check for the damages of those wildfires, and then Gavin Newsom write that off and put that $9 billion back onto the taxpayers. That's the merger of state and corporate interests. Do you see? And Gavin is every bit as dangerous as Trump in that respect. What they did to me in court is the same thing that Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh are there to do for the Republicans. What Trump does with the Supreme Court, that's what Gavin Newsom does with the judiciary. They use the institutions of state as an arm for corporate power. In that iteration, I'm a leftist and dangerous and scary according to all of the traditional metrics. It's important to remember that all of our revolutionary heroes as Black people and as intellectuals were all, by that definition, leftists. Paul Robeson was a communist. W.E.B. Du Bois was a socialist. The Panthers were a Marxist-Leninist organization. Fred Hampton, socialist, right?
Would you consider Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam to be in that mode? No, they were capitalists.
The Nation was capitalist, and that's why part of why Malcolm broke with the Nation.
Right.
Now, Malcolm never identified himself as a socialist, and I don't for the same reasons. But if somebody calls me a socialist or a communist or a leftist, I'll raise my hand and say present.
Right.
It's just that I don't personally identify by any Western ontological categories. Because Malcolm, when he was asked, he said, because Malcolm would talk about capitalism, and he would talk about imperialism, and he would talk about dollarism, as he called it, dollarism. Dope, right? Malcolm be spitting, and I'm gonna get to why Malcolm means so much to me in a second. But when asked if he's a socialist, he said I'm a Black Muslim revolutionary. And if you ask me, I'm a Black Muslim revolutionary. Now, why? Because people have been conditioned to be so afraid of socialism. But if you actually explain the anti-capitalist policies, like universal single payer healthcare, like housing affordability, you find that those are 70-30, 80-20 issues with voters. That's why it sounds so common sense. So I don't actually think that it's beneficial to present it as left or right, because one, those categories don't correspond to African traditions. They don't respond to the histories and aspirations of our enslaved ancestors. I teach at UCSB. The late great Cedric Robinson taught there. He really the principal scholar to write about the Black radical tradition. He wrote a book called Black Marxism, where he was critical. He accepts Marx's reading of Capital, as do I. But he said that reading does not express the depth or breadth of Black historical struggle against capitalism. I teach West African history. I teach the Haitian Revolution. I teach about a West African Muslim revolution that abolished the slave trade and slavery in the 1770s, the first independent free republic. And y'all have never heard of it. Most of my students have never heard of it because they whitewash it out of the books. I learned Wolof and learned to do interviews in Arabic and Fulani and the French language for the archival so I could tell these stories. So I can't personally identify myself as a Marxist because my heroes were born 200 years before Marx was a glint in his daddy's eye. The struggle against capitalism and imperialism is something that our people, and white supremacy for that matter, is something that our people were on. So yes, I'm a leftist, and that's not the way that I personally identify myself, if that makes sense.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Do you feel the need in your politics or in your platform this is kind of a broad question, to make people understand how economically they'll be better off if
my brother,
homelessness and healthcare and those things are taken care of? Or is your approach to let them know just how much they're being harvested by those things? Is there because the
aspirational is always more important.
Exactly, because what the battle that's actually being fought is that, we talked about this on the last podcast, is that, to me, young Black men, young Black people are told that capitalism will save them, that they can buy their humanity with how much they can produce. And that religion is very, very strong. So the question is, what do you put in place of it?
Yeah, it's critical. So Amilcar Cabral, one of those great African revolutionary socialists, he was assassinated because of his organization of anti-colonial resistance by the Portuguese in 1973, the year that I was born. So he was both a socialist in the way that he understood capitalism, but he also said, we use whatever from Marx helps set our people free, but our freedom is rooted in our indigenous traditions first and foremost, right? Yeah. So it has to make sense culturally. So why does this go to your question directly? He said, never forget that people are not struggling for the ideas in anyone's head. They're struggling for materially better lives. They're struggling to be able to pay the bills and to take care of their kids. So why is this so important and so crucial? Whether they're anti-capitalists, that are pre-Marx, like the Haitian rebels or the Senegambian revolutionaries that I describe, or whether they're actual Marxist-Leninist socialists like the Panthers. And to be fair, some of the Panthers were anarchists, not even Marxist-Leninists, right? In that respect. I think that we make a mistake as leftists when we forget that no one cares about your ideology. How are we going to make this here rent?
All right.
And so they are not actually, and an anti-capitalist revolution or socialist revolution has never been affected by persuading all of the people in the society to adopt your ideology. Anti-capitalists are successful because in a moment of where the crisis that capitalism is constantly imposing on the people becomes acute, then people who have an effective reading of what capitalism does provide the best material solutions to people's problems. I don't think that people are going to think like me. I'm not even trying to persuade them. I'm trying to meet their needs. I'm trying to meet your need for healthcare. I'm trying to meet your need for housing. I'm trying to meet your need to have your human rights and dignity respected, whether you are a trans person that's being harassed because of your identity, or you're an immigrant who's having your rights violated. Your human rights are sacred, right? So it is actually by meeting the needs of the people, not trying to program them with an ideology. And now to your point, a lot of so-called leftists or socialists are so busy banging on capitalism that they forget that nobody wants to be broke.
Yeah.
Because I am an anti-capitalist, but I am all for successful commerce. Commerce needs to thrive, and commerce and capitalism ain't the same thing.
Explain the difference.
Exactly. So commerce is the trade and exchange of goods. Capitalism is when an ownership class exploits the working class and the people do not control the means of production or the output of their labor. That's all extracted upwards, right? Commerce is trade. It's good. We need economic growth in California, but we need it to be distributed differently. China, for example, is both capitalist. It has a communist party, but it's really something like a mix of socialism and capital. Exactly. There are China has the second highest number of millionaires on the planet, no homelessness, and no billionaires. I don't think that that's a bad model, right? At all. And how do you do something like that in the state of California? Simple, right? So let's go back to universal single payer healthcare. General Motors pays more for its healthcare than it pays for the steel in its vehicles. Right. That's the look that I had when my team, okay, I was going to pretend like my team showed me those numbers. I looked that stuff up. This was me.
Okay, cool.
And the reason is, so what's going to happen when we get universal single payer healthcare in the state, which, by the way, remember, Gavin Newsom promised us that in 2022. He ran on that. And then when he got in office, he didn't stab us in the back, he stabbed us in the face. Because the healthcare companies put $2.7 million down on the Democrat Party of the state of California, and Gavin worked behind the scenes to make sure it never got brought to a floor vote. Then he is playing in y'all's faces.
He promised that it would still happen when he was on the podcast. So Katie Porter and Eric Swalwell both said that single payer healthcare is a non-starter 6 months ago, and now they're saying they're going to get you single payer healthcare. Right? Tom Steyer, the billionaire, is telling you he's going to get you single payer healthcare. And if you believe that the Democrats are going to get you single payer healthcare, I have a bridge in San Francisco that I'd like to sell you. Because what James Baldwin would say, I can't believe what you say because I see what you do. Right? So they are playing in our faces. But when we actually deliver it, what is going to be the economic effect? Think about this. Commerce is going to come running to the state of California because they no longer have to worry about healthcare costs. This is going to be great for business. And not only will it be great for business, but it will rebalance the playing field between large corporations and small businesses. Before I got dragged into politics, I had a community education online teaching thing that I started during quarantine. Did really nice, helped me, pay bills. And I had to give so much of that money over to Sam and to the state just for them to waste it on all of these programs. But even more crucially than that, I couldn't hire full-time employees because I can't compete on the benefits. So now small businesses can be more competitive against the large corporations because it's a level playing field. And now labor has more. How many times has somebody that's listening to this right now stayed in a bad job because it had the health benefits that they needed? But now you can just go look for the job that suits you. And then the labor unions who are in. Listen, the rank and file are great, but the Democrats are controlling the leadership in just about every union in this state because they've been at war with me too. I've won open debates in like SEIU Local 1000. 4.5 hour debate. Katie Porter, the rest of them on stage, they closed the door, did the vote of 1,000 people in the room, and I beat the next two candidates together. And they didn't even include me in their endorsement process. Not even a discussion. And they wouldn't allow the video of the debate to be circulated in the public because it was a bloodbath, right? So why am I saying this? Because these unions that are in bed with the Democrats
are still holding on to the old order. But what happened? Because they're negotiating for health care benefits. That's a crucial part of their piece. They're used to the system as it is. But imagine labor organizing where you're not worried about the healthcare already. It's not just that it's good for small business, it's good for people to move around. But now union organizers can negotiate for better wages and better working conditions, which is what unions are supposed to be for, not just trying to make sure that you can get seen when you're sick, because the state is supposed to take care of that. And the Green Party, which effectively won that election over there in the UK, very similar platform, also standing on Palestinian liberation, big support from the Muslim community. I'll talk about the demographics of our support in a minute. But the one thing that they didn't have to argue for was universal health care, because they already got it. Like, we should have it. We're supposed to have it. And none of them are going to give it to you. And they know that I will. And that's why they want me off the ballot.
Talk about the breakdown of the demographics, you said.
Yeah. Okay. I should look to camera one. I want to look at the camera for this. They're concealing from you the fact that the Muslim American vote has already fled from the Democrat plantation. In the 2024 presidential election, 53% of American Muslims voted for the Stein-Ware ticket, for Dr. Jill Stein and myself. Only 20% for Team Blue Genocide, 20% for Team Red Fascism. It's the biggest move from one party to another by a major ethnic or religious group in 100 years. And the media doesn't want you to know about it because it signals what's about to happen. The state of California has 1 million Muslims in it. The average voter turnout for the last 2 gubernatorial primaries has been about 5.5 million people. People don't vote in primaries. To finish in the top 2, it's going to take about 1.2, maybe 1.5 million votes, tops. There might be 6 million votes cast between May 4th, when the ballots go out. May the 4th be with you. and yeah, because I'm starting a whole rebel uprising, and that's why they're so afraid. And between that time and 6226, palindrome, what's the name for a numerical palindrome? But 6226, read the same way front and back. Between that date, there might be 6 million votes cast. There's 1 million Muslims in the state of California. 53% of them already voted for me, right? I'm the only Muslim on the ballot and the only anti-Zionist. Well, on the ballot, not technically for now. We'll get to that in just a second. So we expect a 70% yield from the Muslim community in this environment.
How many do you expect to turn out?
Exactly. So our program has been turning out the demographics that we know. See, this is, and let me just say this really quick. I expect that actually they have access to polling data that we don't have. My suspicion is that they know that I'm already past 5% and probably at 8 or 9 right behind those 2. And that's why they got desperate to do what they did. Because it looks really, really bad to throw somebody off the ballot because they didn't black out their number and then lie about it in court. And then it turns out you had it the whole time. So why would they be so desperate? Because they're really afraid. So the turnout, that's been our focus. So we're engaged with the Muslim community, but we're not just engaging the Muslim community. Obviously, this is a message that speaks to immigrant communities. Because I've said, as governor of the state of California, I'm not complying with any unconstitutional federal orders, which means that the feds are going to have to go through every lawyer and law enforcement officer in this state before they touch so much of the hair on the head of any California resident. Gavin could be doing that right now. I've said, as governor of the state of California, any crime that was alleged to have been committed in the state of California in those Epstein files, or by a California resident in those Epstein files, I will direct the Attorney General to open an immediate investigation. And if found guilty, we're prosecuting at the state level. Any governor could do that right now. Have you heard that from any governor?
No.
Because Team Blue and Team Red are both in them files. Ain't no greens in them files.
No. So I want to ask a couple of questions. I want to ask a couple questions about this. Number one, I have to ask the Muslims that the Muslim population that did not vote for Kamala Harris in 2024. Do you think they're getting a return on the investment that they made by either staying home or by voting for President Trump?
So the truth of the matter is that the Muslim vote for us was a win for Green Party organizing, the same way that it's a win in Gorton and Denton for Hannah Spencer, but it had no impact whatsoever on the presidential election.
Okay.
Because of the spending difference. So just for context, Kamala spent $1.5 billion in her, 108 days? Is that what she called it? 107 days. Yeah. So she spent $1.5 billion in those 108 days. And the internal polling, they revealed after the fact that they never had her winning. They never had her winning. All of that money was squandered because they knew that she was never going to win. And I knew on my third day in electoral politics, I got called into she had 108 days. I had 77. That's when I was nominated to one of the first things I did was take a meeting with Dalia Mogahid, who's done polling in the Muslim community for the last 20 years. Here's what she said. She said 3 states, swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia. Biden was at 65% of the vote there in 2020. They're polling at 12% now in the Muslim community. I said, dead man walking. They can't win the election.
This is what I'm trying to ask, though.
Yes, no, I'm going to try to come to it.
I want to make sure we get to this point.
Please do.
Number one, I do not fault anyone.
Of course.
Anyone whatsoever that looked at what happened in Gaza and went, I can't vote for this. I can't do that. Like, especially when you look at the history there and just the absolute atrocities that are happening. Having said that, Donald Trump has attacked Iran twice.
Yep.
We are currently at war with Iran. The escalation ladder seems to be being climbed by every country that's in the region and can. It's a wider regional war now to where all of the Gulf states, all the Gulf countries could end up having their desalinization hit and not have fresh drinking water.
In 3 days,
right?
Qatar will be out of water.
Right. And so when you look at that, there seems to have been an immense consequence with the fighting in Gaza continuing, violence in the West Bank continuing. And I guess the question is, and I know it's a grotesque question for my leftists out there, but you have to ask it, would you not have been better if Kamala Harris was president?
So thank you for refocusing the question, because as a historian, I was getting long-winded into the why.
Professor.
Yeah, and I get 75 minutes at a time with undergraduates. Sometimes I'd be long-winded.
Yeah.
The short version is this, is that there was not a single swing state where if you had even added up all the third-party votes together, that it would have given Kamala even one of those states. So the Muslims did not cost the election. Third-party voters didn't cost the election. The math ain't mathin'. They lost the election for a simple reason, which and it's the reason why they won't release that DNC autopsy.
That messaging is that there is messaging that comes out that goes, hey, she straight up lost on this issue, and the autopsy said that the issue did have some.
It did.
But
because
not just for voters, maybe disenfranchised voters.
Exactly.
We don't talk about that part enough.
Exactly.
Like that messaging affected people to be apathetic and say,
That-
I don't
Listen,
want to
but it wasn't messaging. That was the organic response of the people. And when I had to explain, so I have a special needs son, 15-year-old chocolate boy wonder, autistic. Yesterday was his birthday. Idris. Yes, yesterday was his birthday. So I took him to Burbank because there's this building in Burbank that he's fascinated with. He just wants to go look at it. So I drove him there and did all this thing. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because it takes like special aides to take care of a 6 foot, 180 pound black boy. So I had to explain to one of his aides, who's not like particularly read in on politics, what the run was about back in 2024. So I had to explain it real simple. I said, listen, the Democrats could definitely win this election if they stop killing kids, because people don't like having their tax dollars used to kill kids, but they're getting paid really good money by APAC, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, General Dynamics, and Northrop Grumman to kill kids. So they're going to keep right on killing kids until they lose the election, because they like cashing the checks from the baby killers more than they like winning the election. The Democrats are like a boxer who is getting paid more by the mob to throw the fight than the prize money to win it. They can raise $1.5 billion in a losing effort, and the institution reproduces itself in strength. And then they can use that institutional strength to go to war on people like me and to try to knock me out of a courtroom and to try to knock our voice out of it. The Democrats are every bit as dangerous. I told you what Malcolm said about foxes and wolves. Here's one from me. The sheep is going to live all of its life in fear of the wolf, only to be eaten by the shepherd.
Because the shepherd your shepherd raises the sheep purposely to kill it and
kill it. So the Democrats are going to be saying the wolf, the big red wolf. Stay close to me. Stay here where it's safe. So what have they gotten us? They lock us up. They genocide us. They murder us. Kamala said herself that Iran was the #1 adversary. Obama assassinated Gaddafi, and there is now an African slave trade in Libya.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is I am not a Democrat.
I know.
And being that I'm not one, I think it's, so we talk about killing children. Yeah. There's 200 girls got killed in Iran by a U.S. strike. Right? Yep. So I do not think, boy, it feels like I'm holding water for the Democrats. I do not think that Kamala Harris would have gone to war in Iran. And the reason why I don't think she would have gone to war in Iran is because no president went to war in Iran for the entire time.
Yeah, I understand that reading.
That they were trying to drum up the case to go to war in Iran. No one did it.
Yeah.
No one did it. Trump did it twice. Yeah. He took out Soleimani in 19, which told me if he got another term,
he was going to have another crack at the apple.
He was going to go for it even more the second time. I do think that as we talk about the sameness of these parties, and we must talk about the
distinctions,
but we have to talk about the distinctions. Yes, because if not, then
it's a disingenuous conversation.
For certainly,
I couldn't agree more. I don't think that the style would have been in any way the same, but I think that the substance would be fundamentally the same.
You think she was going to war in Iran?
Well, so here's the issue: is that I'm a historian. I look at this in the broad trajectory, and I study what history teaches us and what the patterns are. So Richard Wolff, great Marxist historian. I strongly encourage you to have him on the show at some point because he's really good at breaking stuff down in a simple way. He showed that this is actually the trajectory of every dying empire. Every dying empire increasingly escalates militaristic adventurism as it's falling apart because it has to do more resource extraction, and it's what kills the empire. They always end up doubling down on this, and it accelerates. So the US dollar was the reserve currency for about 80% of the world 30, 40 years ago. Now that's down to about 40%. And he showed that this was the same pattern with the British before them and the French before them, the Dutch before them, the Spanish before them, the Portuguese. The end of the empire begins with the sell off of that reserve currency. And the ones that have a softer fall, they just accept the collapse of the empire and don't do this continued adventurism. But the Democrats have been more hawkish. The Democrats did the Russia war, the Ukraine war. That was Democrat administration that were belligerent in the way that they approached the Ukraine situation. They started the World War III that we are currently in. They are the architects of this situation. And I want to go just back to one like really, really crucial piece of this. As a historian, I'm glad to announce, that this is the last of the white supremacist empires. We are in its death throes as we speak.
In this country.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell this part, and then if I can, I'm going to tell my story because this helps frame why I understand things this way. So there have been 5 centuries of white supremacist empire. It began with the Portuguese taking our people and turning them into commodities. And the Spanish then amplified that, conducted a genocide of indigenous people. And like many African Americans, on my father's side, both of his grandmothers, Hattie and Clara, were both part Seminole. That's our people too. Right? So genocide of indigenous people. The Spanish are the next ascendant empire, then the Dutch, then the French, then the British. Since World War II, the United States of America has been that last white supremacist empire, capitalist empire dominating the globe. And in its scale and scope, the United States empire is the most dangerous instrument of surveillance and death dealing ever to exist in human history. And it's dying. It's in its extinction burst, just as Israel is in its extinction burst. And they're always the most violent and extractive right before they're extinguished, right before they collapse. I told you that Jill invited me into electoral politics. I told you what she said about reparations. It was what she said about foreign policy that made me consider that taking over the Green Party by us might be a good idea. I said, what's your vision for American foreign policy? She said, my vision is to dismantle the American empire. And I said, yeah, and you better hurry up quick and do it quick before somebody do it for you. Because if you divest from using all of these resources to try to save the empire for the benefit of a tiny group, 0.1% of oligarchs and billionaires, you're going to hasten the collapse of your republic. Whereas if you divest from those things and invest in housing, healthcare, education, your republic, which was never a republic for us, when we were ever able to vote, it was a settler colony the whole time. But you might be able to have at least this state survive the collapse of its empire. So me, why am I running for vice president and then for governor? I got unfinished business with that flag. I want it to pay all that it's due to all that is due to all of us that it's harmed. And I want it to live up to its promises, because what's worth fighting for is the idea of a pluralistic society, of a representative democracy. We're not fighting to make America great again. We're fighting to make this place keep its promises for the first time. And that those two capitalist parties, those two imperialist parties, those two white supremacist parties are never going to do that. Malcolm said of the Democrats, you put them first and they put you last. And that makes you a chump. That makes you a political chump. That's what Malcolm said. I'll save the story about why Malcolm means so much to me to the end of this interview, because I know I'd be talking too long. So I'm gonna let y'all get back in.
Rachel?
So if this is the end of white supremacy.
White supremacist empire anyway.
Empire.
White supremacy is gonna have an afterlife. Yes.
Then what is next?
So you set up the question that so this is the chance for me to tell the story.
Really?
So I told you that I came up rough. So when I was 15 years old, I read Malcolm's autobiography. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. I read that book cover to cover in one night. Couldn't put that book down, because Malcolm was so brutally honest about not just what America had done to him, right? His father being killed by white supremacists, his mother driven to madness by the insurance companies that wouldn't pay to claim, right? Hashtag Free Luigi again, right? Malcolm ends up in the foster care system. Malcolm ends up a hustler. Malcolm ends up a pimp. He was honest, not just about what America did to him, but what he had become because of it. And the thing is, man, I needed what Malcolm had, because I was experiencing the business end of white supremacy on a daily basis. And so I read that book cover to cover in one night, and I wanted what Malcolm had at the end of that book. He had a freedom from his inner demons and from his external oppressors. So I said, if Islam is good enough for Malcolm, it's good enough for me. I went out to my public school library. I checked out an English translation of the Quran. I read that cover to cover the next night. I've been up low-key manic, high-key manic. I read that cover to cover the next night. And then I fell asleep, missed my school bus, didn't go to school the next day. And when my mom got off of work, I said, Mom, I'm a Muslim. I want you to take me to this mosque. I looked up in the phone book so I can make my shahada. I looked up how to convert. We didn't have the internet. I had to look up in books back then. And she said, that's fine, baby, but it's going to have to wait till the weekend because I have work. You know, my mom was always saying God is big enough for all of us and all paths lead to him. And she's still a practicing Catholic to this day. And she's still one of my closest friends. You know what I mean? We went through the wars together. You know, it was hard. You know, she would sit and watch me and my brother eat. And when we were done, she would eat whatever was left. Like if you ever listen to All That I Got Is You by Ghost, right? 15 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment, roaches everywhere, cousins and aunts was there, right? That was our childhood. That was our whole childhood. So I needed what Malcolm had. And I found it because when I read that book, the Quran, cover to cover the next night, I found this story about Ibrahim in the Quranic version, standing up against Nimrod of Babylon, the most dangerous imperialist tyrant on the face of the earth in his time. I heard this story of Musa, Moses, and Harun, Aaron, standing up against the Pharaoh, the most dangerous imperialist tyrant on the face of the earth in his time. I learned about Jesus all over again, Isa and John, Yahya, standing up against Caesar. And I realized over the course of the years that there was this eternal truth in the Quran that was also there in the Bible, and it's in all of our sacred and secular traditions. It's in all of our faiths and philosophies. All empires fall. Nothing that is seized by force is ever held. And once you know that empire is doomed, you're free like Malcolm was. Malcolm said, we're not outnumbered, we're out-organized. And then he said, never let your enemy tell you how many of you there are. Never let the man that you are against form your opinions for you. Once Malcolm was free in here and in here, he couldn't be contained. He could even teach me posthumously. Right? After the fact, set me free and turn me into a weapon. So why am I saying that? When you understand that empire is doomed, then your most pressing question is, what do we build on its ashes? And that's where we were talking before, that it's about what you're building, not what you're tearing down. It's about bringing abolitionist practice. It's about care over cages. It's about, serving people, not the prison prison industrial complex. Yeah, like educated mumble mouth status. Like that's it'd be like that sometimes. Yeah. So all of that is just to say, what we're doing through this campaign is not electoral politics. I think that that's what they're so afraid of. I think that what they're afraid of is that I understand this as the electoral arm of our liberation movement.
Consciousness shift.
We have so much to discuss on this because that's exactly it. It's just a shift in perspective. Because for me, like my wife, she said, your superpower is that you can convince people that don't believe in voting to vote. And I say, yeah, because I don't believe in it any more than they do, right? I believe that it's our community work. It's our mutual aid. It's what we do in community. It's what we do in those liberation theology churches. It's the food giveaway at the mosque. It's the food distribution at the shelter. It's the protection of trans communities. And like we got Trans Visibility Day coming up tomorrow. I don't know when this is going to air. It's about fighting for everybody, no matter what you look like, no matter who you pray with, no matter who you lay with, right? That however you show up in the world, that your rights and dignity are sacred and we're going to fight 10 toes down for them no matter what. That happens in community. Right? And that the direct action, like never let anybody tell you Martin Luther King did nonviolent protests. He never did nonviolent protests. He did nonviolent direct action. Right. He put the people into the gears of the machine so the machine couldn't turn over. He stopped outcomes from happening. That's what a boycott did. And it created new forms of community and solidarity because we had to figure out how to get them rides and everybody get to work. And we put the pressure on the machine and we saw each other and we cooked for one another. We showed up each other's houses early for that pickup and we made our own routes and we built new forms of community and solidarity together. Revolutions are rooted in love. And we build that if we don't think that electoral power by itself is the solution. I am not here to be a savior in the electoral arena. I'm here to serve as the electoral arm of the broader collective liberation movement. And Black folks have always led the way in that. And that's why it's so frustrating, not only when Black imperialists serve white supremacist empire, but when in a narrow way, our people just say, my people first. Or my people only. I don't care what happens to immigrants. Forget what Malcolm said. I don't care about any of that. Me. Well, that divide and conquer is how we ended up where we are. And it was that Fred Hampton had passed that and was able to get the young lords and brown berets and young patriots. That's why they ended him. Yeah. It was when Malcolm came out of the nation and was now preaching a universalist message that they took him out. Because it is when the Black liberation tradition is rooted 10 toes down in our experience, our categories, our culture, and reaches out from our truth to speak a truth that frees everyone. Because as this empire is collapsing, we have to provide the road, light the path to freedom that isn't built on their cages. It's not built on their prisons. It's not built on their exploitation. It's built on what we've always had and we've always kindled. And that's why it hurts me when our people, drink the Kool-Aid and start caping for Master's Fence and saying, I don't care about Jamaicans or Africans. It's like, nigga, that was one stop on the boat. Like you literally, like you were the next stop. And now you're like, y'all stay out. Make it make sense. Like, why does that man's border mean so much to you? Who taught you to hate yourself? Right? That was what Malcolm said. Anyway, I said too much. So I'm
you guys, that's Butch Ware. He's running for governor in California, our first gubernatorial candidate that we've had joining us on Higher Learning. Butch, before we get you out of here, tell them where they can go to support you, learn more about you and everything that you got going on.
I'm at Butch Ware on all social platforms. since it was my son's birthday yesterday, he goes by Idris. His name is actually Rudolph Idris Ware. I'm Rudolph Ware, so I'm Rudolph the third. He's Rudolph the fourth. My father was Rudolph Jr. My grandfather from rural Georgia was Rudolph Sr. But look for me by my nickname, Butch Ware. The name I took for myself when I was converted to Islam at 15 was Bilal. That's also Beware. And that's my MC name. You can look for our political diss tracks, but you can find me at Butch Ware on all social platforms. We are fighting in both. We're fighting in the state court. There's a private suit by a citizen, a Palestinian Latina sister, who's suing the state for throwing me off the ballot because she said that I'm the only candidate that represents both sides of her family. She lost 56 family members in Gaza. So she's filing her own suit in state court. We are appealing that crooked judge's decision in the circuit court, and we are preparing a federal case. But even if they are somehow successful in corrupting the whole system and they are able to write me off of the ballot, there's nothing that they can do to stop a write-in candidacy.
Yeah.
So if they try to write us out of history, write us right back in, because Butch Ware on a ballot is the two most dangerous words in the English language to this system.
Woo. All right. Thank you for joining us on Higher Learning, brother.
I forgot to call to action.
What's called action?
Volunteer.
Okay.
Register and donate to our legal fund. Them lawyers ain't cheap. So that's all I'm saying.
I get it.
We gotta fight. We gotta fight.
Remember, anything helps. The movement is moved through small donations. Well, we know that times are tough out there, but like guys like Butch, people, they build their organizations not through these grand billionaires.
Nope.
They build it through $3, $5, $7, $6, $2 at a time. So whatever you can get.
Do we get to tell them about what we're doing on Saturday?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So and Rachel, I didn't have your direct number, but you are most invited.
Thank you, because Van forgets to tell me.
No. See, so we're having something called Unity Uprising. I just want to make this clear. This is not my campaign. This is my 501c3. So this is a nonprofit. We're doing it. So my nonprofit is called the Revolutionary Learning Community. So in conjunction with Dr. Melina Abdullah. So we were the two black Muslim VPs that people wanted to pit against each other. Nah, that's my soul sister. So we're hosting an event called Unity Uprising, Black Radical Traditions and Collective Liberation. And so we're co-hosting it. It's at Cal State LA, the MLK Lecture Hall. It's on the 58th anniversary of Dr. King's martyrdom, his assassination. And we are hosting an event where we're going to have panels. So on political organizing, and on the political organizing panel, we're going to have the Honorable Senator Nina Turner. We're going to have a local Mexican-American activist, Fernando de Veras. We are going to have Chris Smalls, the incredible Amazon labor organizer. Who is the fourth person that's on that panel? We'll circle back.
It was Vic?
Oh yeah, so Vic Mensa's on the culture panel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So actually, Van, you're I think on the political panel. Okay, I wanted you there. Yeah. Vic is on the culture panel, and so we're gonna have Vic Mensa pulling up. We're gonna have Conscious Lee, George Lee is gonna be in the building as well. My sister, my communications director, she's actually promoted as of April 1st to deputy campaign manager, because sister's just a boss. She does everything, and yeah, so she's also going to be participating, and we want folks to show. We haven't had this kind of meeting of the hearts in the Black liberation movement since the 60s. And so the thing is that I'm running a campaign. We're trying to win, but this is about a bigger movement. I want the energy from this moment to be translated into movement. My son is autistic, so he does these iterations. So he'll go 1 moment, 1 minute, 1 moment, 1 momentum, 1 movementum. And he said, I said, did you just say movementum? Ooh. So we need some movementum, and so that's what we're trying to do.
Young man is a genius. He is. Butch, I appreciate you for joining us, man. We appreciate you.
Bless. All power to the people, y'all. All power to the people.
All right, Butch. So look, I've been getting cracked. I haven't. Okay.
That's twice this episode.
Okay, shut up, Donnie.
You know why? Because we're almost at 4 hours.
Yeah,
I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm tapped out.
We're almost on hour 4 at this point.
And I got a podcast after this.
Okay, we gotta go.
That's why you keep messing it up, because we are tapped out.
I didn't mean to say
we done ran out.
Regard. What I'm saying is that people have been saying that we don't have enough black leftists on the show.
Oh.
Because
we got a great one today.
We had a great one today, and we've just to let you guys know, we've had Cornett West, we've had Melina Abdullah, we've had several black leftists on the show.
We've had Mark Lamont Hill.
We've had Mark Lamont Hill on the show. For everybody that's leveling that criticism, Johnny Come Latelys. Okay, Nina Turner was on the show. Okay, so stop fucking playing with us.
Because when we did that, they said, well, y'all need to bring more conservatives on the show. Like different, we can.
Hey, so I'm saying is we can go further, we can do more, and we will. All right. We're also gonna have the rest of the fucking candidates for the gubernatorial situation on here. We'll have Katie Porter on. We'll see if she throws a whiteboard at our heads. Okay. Take your thin caps off, but do not stop learning. I'm Van Lathan Jr.
I'm Rachel and Lindsay. Bye, guys.